We're going to break it down right here. Weekday, 6 o'clock, SB Nation Radio. Be here.
Game Time Decisions with Gabe Morency and Cam Stewart. Weekdays at 6 p.m. Eastern. Pushing the Odds with Matt Perrault.
Brett Murphy from Stadium joining us here on Pushing the Odds. What are you hearing from athletic directors and coaches about their preparations for what may or may not happen coming up this fall?
As far as the athletic directors, I mean, they've got a number of contingency plans, whether that starts in late August as scheduled or maybe even gets pushed back to the spring. The NFL to play football does not need to bring back 40,000 students on campus. College football does, but I just think it's very unrealistic that all of these major will feel confident enough to say, you know what, to all of our students all over the world, it's now safe to come back on campus and take your fall classes. But make no mistake, they will find out some way to get this.
Do we have joining us this hour?
I'm working on that now. I had to move somebody.
Okay, no problem.
Miami going on maybe as late as Memorial Day.
Pushing the Odds with Matt Perrault. Weekday afternoons from 1 to 4 Eastern on SB Nation Radio.
Hey everybody, RJ Ochoa here from SB Nation's bloggingtheboys.com, your home for the best Dallas Cowboys coverage on the web. And did you know that we have a podcast feed? The Blogging the Boys podcast feed has daily episodes breaking down the latest and greatest in the world of America's team. We have multiple shows, multiple analysts, including a Super Bowl winner. Two-time Super Bowl champion Tony Casillas is part of our rotation, and we want to make sure you are as well. We're available on Apple, Spotify, and wherever else you get your podcasts. So don't miss out. Subscribe to the Blogging the Boys podcast feed today.
Listen to the car guru himself, Mike Herzing with Matt Perrault, every Saturday morning from 7 to 8 Eastern on Let's Talk Wheels, right here on SB Nation Radio. Join Mike and Matt as they talk about everything going on in the world of cars. To get more content on your favorite team, you can check out our friends at SBNation.com. They have team-specific sites to fit your needs, whether it's basketball, baseball, NFL, or the school you graduated from. SB Nation has you covered.
O'Reilly. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts for our spring break deals on lawn and garden batteries, wiper blades, brake kits, and more. Kick off the season right with fresh batteries for your lawn gear. For a limited time, purchase any Superstart lawn and garden battery and get a $10 gift card after mail-in rebate. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Set your system's volume control for slightly above the normal listening level.
Let's go. Second level thinking is defined as looking beyond the easy, obvious conclusions.
You got to do some smart thinking.
Welcome to the second level. On SB Nation Radio.
And on SBNationRadio.com.
Where we go beyond the box score. Presented by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Rocket Mortgage is with you every step of the way. From the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, here's your host, Eitan Shander.
Well, think about where I was on Friday morning, 11 o'clock Eastern, opening up a show with a pick that if you were listening throughout the week, you heard us nail because we had a guy in Dallas at Newey Scruggs who tipped us all off, put the tweet out earlier in the week. So hopefully you were paying attention. And here comes Jalen Reagor. And I'm thrilled that the Philadelphia Eagles did what I wanted. And I'm sure you as a fan of your team, if you're following outside, of course, Philadelphia, you've got your own issues, like in Green Bay, for example, maybe even bigger issues in Green Bay than in Philadelphia. But I'm watching this thinking, just get me a wide receiver in the first round. Boom, they did it. They couldn't trade up. Nobody was going to be able to trade up from 21 to 13 or 10 or 8 or 16 or anywhere to bump up over the Cowboys. That wasn't going to happen. What was going to happen is a clear-cut path to drafting a wide receiver. And yes, Justin Jefferson was still on the board for some people out there who are upset. But you know what? We had Nick Ferguson on Friday who said Denzel Mims, he had him rated higher than both Reagor and Jefferson. It's a deep-ass draft at wide receiver. And I think for a lot of you, you probably felt like me, wherever you were watching or consuming this thing, really good after the first day. I don't know how much at all you kept up that feeling because day 2 ruined the weekend for me. Friday ruined the weekend. It's still Saturday at 6 o'clock on the East Coast. I have half of a weekend left, but I can tell you it's ruined. And you know what? It has nothing. I'm going to do the impossible because there are people out there that are looking like, well, look, hey, day 3, come on. You drafted a bunch of stuff. You still addressed a need. A team making as big of a mistake as the Eagles did in day 2 to headline the entire NFL draft trumps anything that happened day 3 in rounds 4, 5, 6, wherever. It does not matter because the ultimate issue, just like with Love in Green Bay, has nothing to do with who else you drafted. Has everything to do with what's on the field.
As the novel coronavirus pandemic escalates in the U.S., public health officials are encouraging those who are experiencing signs or symptoms of COVID-19, such as coughing or fever, to seek medical guidance remotely. If you or a loved one are feeling sick or are just feeling worried, there is a way to get help without leaving home. Ro, the parent company of Roman, is offering free telehealth services for people seeking guidance and information on COVID-19. The service is available.
Just because you wanted Mariota as the backup doesn't mean that you have to like Hurts.
Free online assessment.
If we had Hurts,
if you are at risk,
it doesn't matter. Oh, stay there, Johnny.
For a free consultation.
That's it. Thank you, G Black. Jeez. Talk some sense into him.
The CDC and the World Health Organization.
All right. Can you grab that Schefter cut, please, Jack? We'll use that here.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
It's ready to go. Do you want to come back with it? Or
No, I'll set it up.
Okay.
Experiencing symptoms, go to ro.co/coronavirus to start your free assessment today. That's ro.co/coronavirus.
The American spirit is alive and well. And underscore the word spirit because at a time when we could all use a little good news, this story will do the trick. The company is called Surf City Stillworks out of Huntington Beach, California. And as their name implies, Surf City creates unique, amazing craft bourbon, vodka, gin, and rum. And to say their business was booming would be an understatement. Then came the pandemic. Hospitals and first responders were...
It's the one where he talks about the...
the one that I sent with the COVID, yeah.
Yep.
From creating craft bourbon.
Yeah, look, I get that too, buddy.
FDA-approved hand sanitizer.
And that's why I'm going to...
Hospitals and others.
G-Tech.
If you live in California and you love craft bourbon...
I'm telling you, brother, it's...
And you want to support a great
exactly. You guys are saying a lot of what I think is true.
And enter radio for 20%.
I was actually, we were talking about this on Thursday. We had a guy on, and the number was 55 and a half. And we were just like pounding the under because we all believe that Jalen Hurts is going to be able to play in this league. The timing of it, the position of it, I mean, that's really it. And yeah, I'm with you, G Black. It's the same thing.
O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every
I mean, that's the stuff that makes no sense. That's the stuff that just irritates you to no end.
This moment of gratitude is brought to you by Rocket Mortgage and the Rock family of companies.
We really want to thank my wife's cousin Marie, who works so hard as a nurse saving others.
To those who leave their homes to keep us safe.
Yeah, the safety from Clemson's good. I get you. And look, that's where I think you separate the two. You can't look for this thing to balance each other out. The problem with Hurts is going to remain the same. These fucking commercials kill us. Kill us.
Their own governance and management structures.
I got to find something to do during the stream.
Scratching beneath the surface. It's the second level on SB Nation Radio.
And on SBNationRadio.com.
Presented by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. From the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, here's Eitan.
Twitch.tv/Shander Show. If you're following along, you can weigh in, of course, 800-224-2004 and on Twitter at Shander Show. And that was the big shock. And I don't remember the last time that I've sat down, watched a draft, and had something isolated like the drafting of Jalen Hurts in the second round be such a major problem, be such an issue that it just ruined the night. I turned it off, didn't even watch them draft the linebacker/safety, I guess, hybrid player from Colorado who's got a really cool story. Just I was so upset, so disappointed. Never seen anything like that where a team could be so prepared and have a guy like Mims fall in their breadbasket and still overlook it and draft a quarterback. And the problem is you're going to see two major fallacies tied to the Philadelphia Eagles. And I've already seen it on the panel. In fact, credit Booger McFarland because he's the only one with a pair of marbles on him to actually question that pick. Everybody else on that ESPN panel should be ashamed of themselves, including a guy who worked here in Louis Riddick. What the hell, Lou? We expect more from you, especially because it's a guy in Howie Roseman who you seem to enjoy. And I'm just saying this on the outside, taking digs at whenever you do local stuff here, reminding us that, ever since you won the Super Bowl, it's been a little less. But my goodness, it was such an obvious mistake. It was such a bad decision. And once again, in the second round, you have just handcuffed your team into an unnecessary quarterback controversy. And that's something that you're not going to be able to overcome. GTEP on Twitter. I love Hurts, the person. I like Hurts, the player. I hate that they picked him in the second round. That's really it. If anybody was listening on Thursday to Brad Blanks outside of his interviews with Ricky Gervais and the Too Hot to Handle crew, you heard him say pound the under 55.5 for Jalen Hurts. I thought the same thing. Who in their right mind thought that Jalen Hurts under 55.5 was going to cash out with the Philadelphia Eagles? It was a terrible decision. And you know what makes it worse? What makes it 50 times worse? I'm not even going to ease you into the pool. I'm not going to ease you or wade you into the pool. I'm going to just throw you into the deep end and force you to listen to this Adam Schefter nonsense and try to wrap my head around how in the world anybody from the team could justifiably feed Adam Schefter this line so that he could repeat it somewhere on an ESPN platform. This is Schefter. And again, you have to understand, this is a guy who does appear locally. I've had the good fortune opportunity to chat with him when I was in the morning show or filling in for Anthony when he was out, whatever the case may be. So I get that he has done a great job of warming up, and rightfully so, especially when the draft is here. He went out of his way to be visible, to be accessible with us, meeting back when I was at that station. So this is not anything personal by any means, but come on. Nobody in their right mind should be pushing this type of nonsense in regards to justifying why the Philadelphia Eagles drafted Jalen Hurts.
Now, in this day and age, I've had teams tell me it's more important than ever to have a backup quarterback in this pandemic. We're going to be playing next year. Coronavirus is out there, COVID-19. What if your quarterback gets the virus? It's an interesting situation here. I think there are more problems now than ever before. And so I think teams are looking to shore up the most important position in this sport. And that's why the Eagles did it.
No, that's not why the Eagles did it. That is just not why. That's just not true, okay? It doesn't mean that Schefter is lying. What I'm telling you is whoever told him that is just not telling the truth. Whoever led Schefter down that road to then report it is misleading you. Fake news. It didn't happen. This wasn't a draft room. You can sell me on Howie Roseman and the Philadelphia Eagles are not sold on Carson Wentz durability. And I turn around and say, well, then why are they paying him over $35 million a year for the next 4 years? Why did they sign him to a franchise with a dollar sign, not an S, quarterback type deal? Because they had to? Because Carson Wentz had them backed into a corner with a bandana and pistol? If you don't sign me, you're done. If you don't sign me, you're cooked, Howie. Can you believe it, what you just heard? Can you believe the reality that Adam Schefter, via the team, I assume, I seriously doubt this is Jalen Hurts' agent pushing that. Well, this is what the Eagles told us, that they're going to draft my client because they're really concerned Carson Wentz could get COVID-19. That's what Adam Schefter just said. The Philadelphia Eagles drafted a backup quarterback in the second round. We'll get to Taysom Hill and that nonsense in a second. But the Philadelphia Eagles drafted, I want you to understand what he just said. In fact, Jack, please, if you can, let's rewind that because I'm going to say what he said, and then I want you to actually hear it so that you can understand from his own words how ridiculous this is and how much of a smokescreen this is. And then ask yourself why, if it was anything else, why would they feel the need to push this ridiculous nonsense, this insanity, that there's this fear? And again, this is what he's saying, that the Eagles drafted Jalen Hurts in the second round with a top 55 pick, a backup quarterback, after they just franchise signed, not tagged, but signed their quarterback in Carson Wentz, who's not even anywhere close to 30 right now. They sign or they draft Jalen Hurts because they are afraid or they fear that Carson Wentz could get COVID-19. This is Schefter saying this.
Now, in this day and age, I've had teams tell me it's more important than ever to have a backup quarterback in this pandemic. We're going to be playing next year. Coronavirus is out there, COVID-19. What if your quarterback gets the virus? It's an issue. It's an interesting situation here. I think there are more problems now than ever before. And so I think teams are looking to shore up the most important position in this sport. And that's why the Eagles did it.
Why did the Detroit Lions not draft a quarterback at number 3? Why didn't they draft Tua or Herbert? Shore up that position. Matthew Stafford was playing with a broken back last year. Why didn't they shore up that position? Could he not get COVID-19 as well? Do you realize how stupid this sounds? Do you realize how ridiculous of even talking point this is? It makes absolutely no sense. It's a smokescreen. It's a diversion. It's subterfuge. It's trying to get you to buy into something that's not even tangibly believable. What is going on? Trevor from the 203 on Twitch, was Adam Schefter drunk? I don't think he was drunk. The person who gave him that report might have been drunk. Maybe drunk off some sauce. It was the same reason why Jalen Hurts was drafted in the first place. No, it's not. I don't think he follows up if it's a fun. Look, you can't come down on Schefter for this. He's just reporting. Schefter doesn't make stuff up. Schefter isn't going to get on ESPN. I know that. I can tell you that for a fact. Adam Schefter's not making something like that up. Adam Schefter got that from somebody. And who else would give it to him besides somebody on the team? It makes absolutely no sense. This whole thing is beyond bizarre. And you know what else stinks up to high heaven and back? Is the fact that the Eagles are trying to sell you, and anybody else who is pushing the company line is trying to sell you that they drafted Taysom Hill. This is why, I'm going to tell you right now, this is why whatever they did day 3 today is completely separate than anything they did day 2, mainly drafting Jalen Hurts. They didn't make up. These are two completely competing things. They're not on the same vein. Drafting a bunch of speed wide receivers doesn't make up for any mistake that you made drafting Jalen Hurts, just like drafting Jalen Hurts and that mistake doesn't negate anything that you have at all. It doesn't negate anything that you've done or picked up today at all. Those are two completely competing different things happening in the world. One is you made a terrible mistake. An unfortunate, just a really bad mistake by not drafting a true impact player at any position of need, offense or defense, and taking Jalen Hurts. 3 is, well, day 3, you addressed positions of need. Packers screwed it up a little more, but at least after Love, you saw them trying to address some areas, trying to address some positions there. It's completely separate. And you don't just pluck Taysom Hills out of the trees or grow them underground. That kid is a very unique talent and was asked to grow into it. Not day one material. There are still concerns about Hurts playing quarterback. You need to have that threat in order for the Hill thing to work. And oh, by the way, if I could just add this, at Shander Show, twitch.tv/Shander Show, 800-224-2004. If I just can add this thing here, the reason why you need, forget try, but need something like a Taysom Hill in New Orleans is because, and get this, I know it might be a shocker for a lot of people. It might be breaking news. It might be brand new to some people outside of New Orleans, but you ready? Their quarterback's arm is falling off. Drew Brees isn't asked to throw the football 30 yards down the field at all, barely at all anymore. Taysom Hill is asked to come in and make throws that Drew Brees can't. Are we led down this road now to believe that this Taysom Hill draftee and Jalen Hurts is going to take over throws that Carson Wentz can't make? Carson Wentz is a bomb. Carson Wentz could throw the football down the field as good as most quarterbacks in the NFL consistently. In fact, that was one thing that was so freaking frustrating last year, was watching a guy with a bomb with a cannon on his shoulder, unable to stretch the field because nobody on the field could stretch it from a wide receiver position. This whole thing is a disaster. It doesn't mean that picks 5 through 8 can't work out. It doesn't mean that what they drafted from a wide receiver position moving forward can't work out. Hell, I told you they didn't even have to draft a wide receiver instead of Jalen Hurts, although the kid from Baylor, Mims, was still on the board, as well as like 4 other guys. What they had to do was just address need. And now you're stuck. Like you're stuck in Green Bay. We'll get to them coming up this hour. You're stuck in Philadelphia with the quarterback controversy. It doesn't matter. It won't matter, especially when these guys get on the field. There's going to be controversy. There's going to be an issue. There's going to be a problem at some point when Taysom Hill works and Carson Wentz doesn't. Taysom Hill, Jalen Hurts. What are the 2 scenarios that you have? We'll break and look at something happening here with Al Pacino coming up. Shout out to my guy, Seth Everett, hosting the show on his channel. So it's posted up there. If you're watching the stream, make sure you go to Seth Everett's channel as well. I'll put the link up there for you to follow on the stream, but make sure you go and follow his, and he'll push amazing, not only baseball, but anything from television to Netflix series, Marvel comic movies, insanity. So make sure you're following along, not only Seth on Twitter, but also on his channel. It's down there as well. Here's the problem that you have. There's no way around at all. There's just no way around a quarterback controversy because Jalen Hurts is either going to work out and people are going to ask, well, what's Wentz still doing? Or he's going to fail in Hurts and people are going to say, well, why the heck did you draft him in the first place? Interesting question on Twitch. We'll answer coming up next regarding Aaron Rodgers demanding a trade. I'll tell you why he won't. In fact, the Aaron Rodgers scenario is already out there. All right. You've already seen it. You don't realize it yet. We'll get to that coming up next. 800-224-2004 at Shander Show on Twitter, twitch.tv/Shander Show. It's SB Nation Radio.
Wait. The NFL execs are holding a mock draft to see if everything will be working properly.
Yeah.
So they don't tip their hand. They're most likely going to be selecting their franchise's greatest player.
Oh, that'll be fun. I'm sure my brain is rolling through the controversy for some teams.
Yes. We need to know who you think for certain teams. For Detroit, easy.
For some, it would be difficult.
Say the Cowboys, that's going to be tough.
Of course.
For the Bears, that's going to be tough.
That's going to be really tough.
But I mean, for some teams, I mean, like I said, the Lions, easy. I mean, you only have one great player in your franchise history.
But Eric Hipple doesn't get on the radar?
We all know who the best player in Detroit Lions history is.
Right. New York Giants.
Everyone
is it Lawrence Taylor? I would say it's Lawrence Taylor.
I would say it's Lawrence Taylor.
If you're Tampa Bay, do you say Tom Brady?
Wake Up Call with Tony D and Ron Culver. Weekday mornings. Pharrell.
Coast to coast. It's Pharrell, coast to coast, every day, 4 to 6. I talk.
All right, so I'm waiting on my guy here to get back to me. If we don't get him at 40, then we can do the Goodell cut then.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're breaking up, and they don't know whether they're coming or going when I'm done with them. I'm giving you.
Let's go ahead and make the tweet. I haven't done the tweet yet, but I want to make sure that we can just say hour 1 starts now.
Yeah, don't worry about it. That's fine. You don't need to tag anybody.
Oh, okay, no problem.
SB Nation tonight with John Michaels.
What event do you think you'd have any chance of actually getting done? I'm trying to think. I would probably have to learn how to do one of those shooting events. I was never going to be able to do the javelin. I never could have done the shot put. I'm scared of heights, so I damn sure wasn't going to try to do the pole vault and jump over something 20 feet in the air. I don't know that there was anything I could have done. Like the swimming, no. I damn sure wasn't diving unless we could have done a cannonball off the top of the platform. I'm not diving into the water and flipping around like a maniac. You know what? Maybe if I trained for like a year, I might have a shot to play some ping pong against somebody. Although, actually, no, I wouldn't. Those dudes are like 40 feet off the table and they're and that thing's like, the ball's just flying everywhere. I could never do that either. So I don't think there's anything I could do in the Olympics.
SB Nation tonight, weeknights at 10 Eastern on SB Nation Radio. Introducing AutomotiveMap.com, a brand new website for anyone interested in what's happening in the world of automobiles. From reviews on the latest vehicles to vintage rides to tips on keeping your family safe on the road, AutomotiveMap.com has something for you. If you love cars, trucks, and SUVs, and the amazing technology hitting your favorite showroom, check out the brand new AutomotiveMap.com. Scratching beneath the surface. It's the second level on SB Nation Radio.
And on SBNationRadio.com.
Presented by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. From the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, here's Eitan Shander.
I love it. The quarterback controversy that did not need to exist in Philadelphia, and one that I feel like a lot of people didn't see coming, but should probably see how this thing ends in Green Bay. And you have to understand, from just with the benefit of hindsight, and this is all we have right now, and it's the only thing we have working in our favor as internet, radio, whatever, Twitch detectives that we all are, trying to figure this thing out with Aaron Rodgers. And here's why I don't think he's going to demand a trade. If anything, it plays out like how Aaron Rodgers, and I'm just thinking, oh, how would Rodgers this thing? And what I mean by is, how would he handle this thing? And if I'm looking at the last decade in which he has just been left out to dry from a team building standpoint, more so than any other elite quarterback, where he has the ability to opt out and leave after this year. And let's not forget, because this is a huge factor, Aaron Rodgers doesn't go into games or seasons or anything thinking that he's not the best, right? Ego is going to play a huge role in drive for a talent like that. So it stands to reason that Rodgers believes he's the best quarterback in the NFL, right? Okay, that's fair. That's not this major assumption. I don't think people are going to come down on him. Well, Mahomes or Lamar. He has argument as far as skill set is concerned for being one of the best quarterbacks ever. Clearly, he, like you and I, all of us did, paid attention to what Tom Brady just did. Tom Brady left home, as comfortable of a situation as that is, as Teflon and bulletproof of a situation as it is. He left it, just said, I'm gone. I'm out. He went to a new home, which did everything, including made a foolish and unnecessary pick in the first round, a trade and pick in the first round. Pick was necessary, but the trade was not. All at the behest of Tom. Just do this, do this, do this. Brady walks in, waves his magic wand, and everything changes like that wacky mouse in Fantasia. That's what happens. Woo! Everything goes, all right, sure, we got you. You don't think Aaron Rodgers sees this? You don't think Aaron Rodgers understands what's going on here? Why would like LeBron leaving Cleveland? Why, the second time, why would he at all help, right? Why in the world would he help this organization by agreeing to a trade and then re-signing with the team when it's done? Why would he help the Packers? He owes the Packers nothing. So if you're really Aaron Rodgers right now, what do? Yeah, there's always risk about getting hurt, and he's clearly lived up to that, and he's been hurt before. But if you're Aaron Rodgers and you're already fed up with everything, then what do? You tell the team, I'm done. I've had it. Sure, go ahead, try and find a trade partner. But I guarantee you that Rodgers tells via the media or somehow it gets out that Rodgers ain't signing with a team that trades for him. Don't trade for me because I'm not signing. I'm not going to re-sign. And then once the season's over, Rodgers hits free agency. And guess what? He goes out to free agency and signs with one of those teams. He said, don't sign me because I'm not trading. Don't trade for me. I'm not signing. That's what happens. That's the Aaron Rodgers way. That's hashtag team spite. You know what? I'm all for it. No loyalty in this game, none, because they clearly have shown you zero. And I don't think this is a result. Let me make this perfectly clear. My belief on how this whole thing laid out is Rodgers told them, I'm not negotiating with you. I'm not signing an extension. I'm not until the end of the year. And probably took it a step further because he's Aaron Rodgers, and that's great. The people around him probably know that and probably represent him like Aaron Rodgers, which is fine. So Rodgers, either himself or through his crew, said, not only am I not going to sign anything ahead of the season, not only am I not going to sign any type of new contract extension, but I probably won't even be here when it's all said and done. Probably going to be out of here. The Packers aggressively moved up to draft that young man. They moved up to take Jordan Love. How can you sit there and think that this is all reactionary now? Aaron Rodgers pissed off and Aaron Rodgers upset and Aaron Rodgers wanting out is all reactionary. You don't make that move. Look, to be fair to the Eagles, you don't make that move unless there are some serious concerns that you have about Carson Wentz. The problem is that the concerns with Carson Wentz, he's a 27-year-old quarterback who just signed a major deal. Aaron Rodgers all but told you, I ain't coming back. That's my interpretation of the Packers moving up and drafting a kid in Jordan Love. Aaron Rodgers already tipped his hat, and maybe it wasn't even like a poker game so much. It was just, I'll play with an open hand. I'll play with an open hand. Who cares? You ain't going to beat me. I'm Aaron Rodgers. You're a team that can't get it right, and the only time we won anything is because of me anyway. I don't believe that now Aaron Rodgers has turned around and said, well, I want out. That now Aaron Rodgers has turned around and said, well, screw this. I'm not re-signing. I think that's naive. Based off of hindsight alone. And you know what? There is a distinct, I hope you realize this too, and this is the final little shot here. There's a pretty distinct difference between what Aaron Rodgers is right now versus what Brett Favre was when they drafted Rodgers. Rodgers isn't there yet with Favre. And you know what? They should have learned something because for 2 years, Brett Favre held that organization hostage. Hell, he held everybody hostage. It was the only thing happening. The only thing happening. Okay, so here's the thing. Oogie Boogie Gaming on Twitch. I mean, can he really be upset the same thing happened with him and Favre? And I get that. And that's the one argument that I wouldn't come back and yell at, the one that I would try to reason through. Mainly because the difference of what Brett Favre was at the time versus what Aaron Rodgers is now. And I'll add one more thing. They were trying a lot more, it seemed like, right, from a team building standpoint, they were trying a lot more to build around Favre than they have been with Rodgers. It almost seems like it's been reluctant at times. At times. And yeah, Devontae Adams getting hurt was a major shot. They were 13-3. You draft a quarterback in the first round? It doesn't make sense outside of if you start to look at it from the point of view of Aaron Rodgers is unhappy and wants out. Or at the very least, Aaron Rodgers has told this team, I'm not convinced that you're doing enough. I'm not going to re-sign. Let's look at it this way. Yeah, 2004 it's been.
This is Derek's O'Reilly Auto Parts story. After the third time jump-starting my car, I finally realized my battery was...
So just us two in the next segment?
Tested it
yeah.
right there in the parking lot. It was bad, real bad. But they helped me find the right battery for my car and even installed it for free. Now my car starts like new.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
In the fight against COVID-19, our friends at Boll & Branch recently made a commitment to help New York State by manufacturing mattresses and pillows and donating them to hospitals and emergency medical operations. This keeps workers employed and helps medical and government agencies prepare and respond in this moment of need. To support this effort and scale it to other states, they've set up a temporary code that lets you help. When you use code GOODNESS at BolandBranch.com, you will get 10% off your purchase, and 10% of the proceeds will go directly to fund this effort. Boland Branch has already committed 1,000 mattresses and 5,000 pillows for hospitals and emergency operations, and that commitment is firm. But with your help, they can make even more. You can contribute $100 to cover the cost of a mattress that will be donated to a hospital in need. Go to BolandBranch.com and use code GOODNESS to help. BolandBranch.com, promo code GOODNESS. Restrictions may apply. See BolandBranch.com for details.
Yeah, we talked about that in the first segment, man, and that's why I was separating the two and saying the Hurts pick is going to impact Wentz and this team down the line. Like 4 guys today drafted, making the team and having some impact doesn't take away the distraction and whatever the hell is going to happen with Hurts, especially with that second-round tag associated. That's not going away.
In 48 hours. Tax Solutions Now can get you help. Our agents know the rules, can stop the pain, and get you the best.
So
deal.
frustrating.
We connect you with a team of former IRS agents and tax professionals who will get the IRS off your back.
We saved our home and overcame the most powerful collection agency in the world.
Call Tax Solutions now. Time is running out. Call 800-296-9744. 800-296-9744. 800-296-9744. 800-296-9744.
Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans and Rocket Mortgage. During these challenging times, our commitment to providing you with the best mortgage experience remains. We understand that hardships may arise, and we're prepared to help. Mortgage rates remain near historic lows. If you think that now is the right time to refinance your mortgage, our home loan experts are available to help 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at rocketmortgage.com.
Wait,
Cost information and conditions.
Patriots had probably the worst.
States and MLS
It's such a bizarre thing going on. Yeah.
Scratching beneath the surface. It's the second level on SB Nation Radio.
And on SB Nation
The Goodell cut's ready to go.
Okay, awesome.
Rocket
Thank you.
Mortgage by Quicken Loans. From the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, here's Eitan Shander.
I'm a little surprised that people have warmed up to Goodell in like the third day of the NFL draft. And of course, here come the think pieces and, you know, the SI or the Athletic or whoever comes out and says, you know, Roger Goodell and this 1,500 word article on the evolution of I will bet money. And if I'm right, I'll donate $100 to the first person who tweets me when I'm right at Shander Show's charity, or maybe your own pocket. If that counts as a charity right now in the middle of a pandemic, that's fine. But I guarantee you, if it's not out already, and I don't pretend or presume to know anything, but if it's not out already, I guarantee you that somebody right now is working on a 2,000-word long-form piece with video, and speaking of which, we're going to let you hear some audio, of the evolution of Roger Goodell, how this virtual draft turned Roger Goodell from some monster to a human being. Why? Oh, because he wore a T-shirt and put a jar of M&Ms out there. That's how low the bar is for some people out here of just humanity. No wonder why Westworld dumbed down the show and completely rebooted it. Half the people watching couldn't understand it. You probably think that Roger Goodell is some great human now. He's humanized himself. I mean, there's no bigger candidate right now for any type of major CEO exec in sports being a host than Roger Goodell. He would be number one, and it's not even close. So what exactly warmed up to you? What exactly humanized the man to you? That he was sitting there? You see me, I was tweeting the hell out of it because we basically built half the show on Friday about it. But putting somebody in different clothing and changing the background doesn't change the DNA of the person. It doesn't change how awkward he still was announcing picks, how awkward he still was interacting with the boo cam behind him and all of these things that they tried to push. He's not a human being. Stop trying to make him and force him down our throats as one. In fact, it pushes his awkwardness even further. And I don't get how anybody can watch this draft and think to themselves, well, my bar is so low for CEO of the NFL to relate to me that all I want to do is see him in a T-shirt, a pair of blue jeans, Wranglers, and hopefully I'm hoping that he can top it all off. The trifecta can hit with a jar of M&Ms, because if he comes out with Skittles, or even if he comes out with Reese's Pieces, then it's not. You got to come out with a real official old school M&Ms. The think pieces are coming. The videos are coming, all to try and force this change of Roger Goodell simply because he changed his posture and his clothing. That's it. Now listen to this back and forth. You won't get the benefit. I'm sure you've seen this because it's the T-shirt. But even still, well, that was his basement, to be fair, on Twitch. I was disappointed in his setup, $45 million a year. I'm living like Cliff Kingsbury. To be fair, the guy's in Bronxville, right? So he's up in like this Westchester area where he probably has a mansion in an area that you get lost walking down the street. But to your point, it was probably the least appealing room in his house. I bet money. I've been in some of these houses up there. They're insanity. It's an entire county, or I guess town technically, but that whole county of Bronxville's in. It's insanity up there. So my guess is that he has this ridiculous size mansion and has like 15 different awesome pool rooms, like a rumpus room or something. And again, this speaks to how out of touch he is. He probably has some $10 million rumpus room that has like arcade games, a pool, bumper pool, and something really cool, right? To make Kingsbury look like a nerd. But instead, they go, well, let's just go to my basement. It's the easiest. We've got the most outlets down in the basement. Let's just go down there. Makes no sense. None of it makes sense. None of what Roger Goodell does or says or acts makes sense. That's why, and again, I implore you, I beg of you, every single time you watch this man on TV, look at it like it's his first time on TV. Like that's his first time that he's just been shoved out there and said, okay, Roger, just read the teleprompter. That's all you have to do, man. That's it. Just read the prompter. Read the prompter. That's it. And then he goes out there and struggles through it. Emotions become monotonous at best. So they had to contrive this scene where he was loose, Roger Goodell, where he was chilled out, hanging out, Roger Goodell. Well, let's listen to chilled out, humanized version of Mr. Goodell.
Well, we just saw a picture of you sort of relaxing in that chair. It was story time, Roger, reading a pic. I've also enjoyed sort of the de-evolution of the wardrobe, right? Like I just took the tie off. You had the jacket, then you went to the hoodie, and now we're in the T-shirt. I'm expecting a smoking jacket by the time this thing is all over.
Hey, Trey, you know, as soon as we opened it up, we've had a few responsibilities here, but I've also had some responsibilities around the house. I've been putting screens in and doing some other things around the house today, watching the draft as it goes. So this is a big spring weekend for us, and it's just been a lot of fun.
And of course, housing those M&Ms in your favorite chair, which I completely support. So I understand that we have a little bonus item.
I moved on to cupcake.
You moved on to cupcakes?
I moved on to I moved on to cupcakes. I just want you to know that.
Be careful. The next thing after cupcakes is a whole cake. So be prepared for the next evolution.
So do me a favor, Jack. Jack is producing the first hour. He's back with us, so we're happy he's here and doing a fantastic job as always. If you can, if you could just isolate it right before Goodell says the cupcakes. So Wingo starts talking about the M&Ms. If you can just isolate that, because I want you to hear, and I just have picked stuff up from talking for the last 16 years, it feels like, on the radio. I do a lot of talking, but I also do a lot of listening. And if it's from idiot phone callers to intelligent guests or anybody in between, you pick up things about people who talk a lot, and I'm not just talking about radio hosts, I'm saying that there are plenty of people whose profession requires them to talk. Look, you can be somebody who delivers and you deal with multiple different stops a day, and to make your life easier, to represent your company as part of who you are as a human being, anything that factors into it, you might be gregarious, outgoing, talking. A lot of it makes your life easier. Correct. Kevin Cook, 32 on Twitch, a teacher. Same type of profession, right? Where by nature, you better be able to talk in front of a crowd and talk for a little bit and not be exhausted after 2 hours of it. Point of it being is just listen to Roger Goodell, because when you don't and you're not, I would say, seasoned enough, like this guy should be as a public speaker, a CEO, as a commissioner who should be doing a ton of public speaking and talking in front of groups, he commits this, I won't say fatal, talkative flaw, if you will, or communicative flaw, but he's talking about the cupcakes, and he has to get the cupcakes out exactly as he has it in his mind. He has to say the line exactly as he has it in his mind, because A, he's been trained, and that's what hey, make sure you bring up the cupcakes. And B, just that's how his mind works from not being able to adjust on the fly. You talk, you have more conversations, and you're in depth about issues that maybe you're not familiar with ahead of time, or somebody springs something up on you. It could just be regular conversation on the bus or something in front of people during a Q&A. He can't go off script. He can't. He has to get, and this is, again, a sign of a robot. You have to complete your process. You have to complete your mission first. His mission is telling that cupcake joke. Nothing else can exist until he gets this cupcake line out.
It's just been a lot of fun.
And of course, housing those M&Ms in your favorite chair, which I completely support. So I understand that we have a little bonus item.
I moved on to
cupcake. You moved on to cupcakes?
I moved on to I moved on to cupcakes. I just want you to know that.
Be careful. The next thing after cupcakes is a whole cake. So be prepared for the next evolution.
Do you hear the difference? Just right there. There's the difference. It's not even subtle. I mean, this is hitting you right over the head. Trey Wingo responds instantly with a quip. Why? Because Trey Wingo is a hell of a talker. Yeah, you, like me, and we're going to get into this in the second hour, the biggest issue, really the only thing that weighed down the draft as a whole, it's the only problem that I think you can raise routinely, consistently, day 1 through 3 with the NFL draft. We'll get into this in the second hour, but did you hear the difference? Trey Wingo, I don't care what your thoughts are on him as a radio host in the morning, if I think they're still doing that show, or as a panelist. This man is a seasoned talker. He is a converser. He's an order, yes, but he also goes back and forth. And to be able to throw a quip like that out, it's beyond just, hey, you're quick on your feet. People, they are quick on their feet, and they can connect it with being able to give a quip back. And really, when you talk about somebody being quick on their feet, that's the end product. That's a combination of being smart, being able to adapt on the fly, and being able to just get it out. Goodell, on the other hand, was a robot and just banging up on the wall. Bump, bump, bump. Cupcakes, Trey. Trey's like, bah, bah, bah. It's almost as if Goodell doesn't talk to anybody. Maybe nobody in his house. I don't know what the hell's going on in his life, but just save me. Please stop with this whole, I can't believe the NFL draft, the virtual draft, humanized Roger Goodell. Let's just stop with that, please. It doesn't add up. And he hasn't changed his image, because look at all, and I don't have time. It would derail the entire final 2 hours of the show to look at all the issues and problems that you've had with Roger Goodell. How in the world would sitting there, fumbling through a cupcake line, wearing a T-shirt and having some M&Ms change any of that, or even balance it out? How low is your bar at Shander Show? Twitch.tv/Shander Show. 800-224-2004. I don't understand it for the life of me. We put a poll up, and it had to do with Al Pacino's 80th birthday today. 80th birthday, which is insanity right now. And I have to be honest that when I think of the long list of movies that Al Pacino did I know where I am at 41 years old, but think about this. You've been on the planet for 80 years. You've been doing movies for a long time, right? A long time. There are two questions I have. One, and I'll start, Jack, with you. First movie that comes to mind when you hear Al Pacino's name. No wrong answer, I promise.
Wasn't he in The Godfather? It was Scarface. Sorry, Scarface.
Okay. Scarface. And yes to your question, but Scarface. Now, why Scarface and not The Godfather?
Well, I wasn't sure if he was in The Godfather or not, but I just remember that line, "Say hello to my little friend," and I'm not too much of a movie buff, so I'm not too sure if that line came from Scarface or The Godfather.
No, look,
I've never seen The Godfather.
Okay, so not a movie buff, younger, at least 20 years younger than me. No, you're older than that. Sorry, but 26, right? So 15 years younger than me. And not a movie buff, but still go back to Scarface as the go-to role. And I think Scarface, to be fair to you and a lot of other people, Scarface has been turned into a major cult classic because of just how much it's been talked about in music and movies and referenced and stuff. So I get the even repopularization of the movie, but it is interesting because the whole "say hello to my little friend," like even that has been. Now, the movie itself, when it came out, tanked, it bombed. It was a terrible movie, but it repurposed and repopulated. A lot of people picked it up. Godfather, I would think The Godfather would be the go-to answer of that. But there's also when it all went bad. Like, people think that Scent of a Woman was really his last real role before he just started yelling and screaming and going nuts. But it's his 80th birthday. So think about that. If you're following along, we'll continue our conversation with the draft, as well as this question that we put out on Twitter at Shander Show. And again, twitch.tv/Shander Show, 800-224-2004. Who's got the most range? And I didn't want to do this as a Pacino only thing. I wanted to link in 3 other names that would be in that Pacino type grouping. De Niro, Pacino, Liotta, Keitel. I'll give you the results of that poll before we wrap the hour next here on SB Nation Radio.
With Matt Perrault.
My bad, dude. I'm just not too familiar.
Oh, no, that's fine, man.
A sport like baseball. It is an outdoor sport that must be played in nice weather. And the window
A lot of
for
votes.
nice weather in certain parts of the country, Chicago.
Yeah, I think you're right, buddy. Dog Day Afternoon is up there.
Quite small. I actually am somebody who believes that baseball should be going and playing in Arizona and in Florida once this thing calms down. And I think having teams be centrally located, I think finding a facility, a hotel that probably is empty, and putting your team there, it stinks. You're going to be away from your family. You're going to be away from your normal life. But that, to me, is a must. I just don't see how in the world you put, like, the New York Yankees in New York. Like, how?
Pushing the Odds with Matt Perrault. Weekday afternoons from 1 to 4 Eastern on SB Nation Radio. SB Nation Tonight with John Michaels.
We don't know that 16 days from now, things might not be trending in a good direction. I'm going to continue to take the glass half full approach. I'm continuing to plan as if college football and pro football is going to happen in the fall, and that we're going to have the NBA by June at some point. I'm thinking by June, we're going to have NBA back and baseball will be up and running. We may be playing in front of empty gyms for a while. So be it.
SB Nation Tonight, weeknights at 10 Eastern on SB Nation Radio.
Wake up call. Who as a country do we trust enough?
Man, I don't know. This thing
you
is
can
weird.
Go back to work. You can go to sports arenas that we go, absolutely, thanks.
Is it
Good.
Dr. Fossey?
Is it him? Because he's like, we may never be able to shake hands ever again.
Why is your Dr. Fossey voice one step away from Gilbert Godfrey?
I know, right? On the one hand, I want to know what the other hand is doing. And my Dr. Fauci impression is more like, well, it's more like if you have 2 people in a room, it's better if one of them leaves. So in the future, let's say you're taking your family to a restaurant and there's 4 of you. It's better to just get 4 tables. And please limit the visitation to maybe once every 2 weeks. That would be the best. To keep this completely under control.
Wake Up Call with Tony D and Ron Culver. Weekday mornings. Pharrell's
Coast to coast. It's Pharrell, coast to coast. We're taking over the world. And I got to tell you, from the beginning, it's been kind of easy. You got to love us on SB Nation, kicking ass and taking names. Every day, 4 to 6, you catch my Sports Grid coast to coast gig. And imagine this. Once we go live again, baby, you're not going to know what hit you when I start pouring beers and shots for you.
Pharrell Coast to Coast with Scott Pharrell. Weekdays from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern. Scratching beneath the surface. It's the second level on SB Nation Radio.
And on SBNationRadio.com.
Presented by Rocket
Short segment.
Quicken Loans. From the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, here's Eitan Schneider.
Some results here, and actually added a second part of the poll. Nearly 450 people have voted so far. It's only been up for about an hour, so plenty of time here. And Robert De Niro is running away with this, but I disagree with the results. De Niro at 45.5%, Pacino at 28%, Harvey Keitel at 18%, and Ray Liotta at 8%. Man, no love for Ray. No love for Ray. 8%. Now, Robert De Niro does not have more range than either Pacino or Keitel. He's just done more movies. And I think you have to look at the bomb factor or just not being a top 3 act. There are movies in which De Niro's in where he's not even a top 2 person on the screen. How is that possible? Danny Aiello, dark horse candidate, Hudson Hawk. Watch out, man. No, Aiello ain't making a list. We'd have to make a pretty bad list for Aiello to be in it. All right, man. Thank you, brother. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Yeah, and you still want me to get the Cowboys guy for tomorrow?
Yeah, if you can, that'd be great.
Yep, I got you, man.
Thanks, man.
Time decisions.
I'm Gabriel Morency, inviting you to
We'll
join
be
me and
right back.
Redhead Cam Stewart weekdays at 6 Eastern on SB Nation Radio Station and the nation. No games, no problem. We've got your back. Weekdays at 6. We throw it down. Best bets, prop. If they're playing, we'll find a number on it. Bring it. Weekdays at 6. SB Nation Radio. Game time decisions.
Game time decisions with Gabe Morency and Cam Stewart. Weekdays at 6 p.m. Eastern. SB Nation Tonight with John Michaels.
It's about the soft tissue injury himself, Will Fuller. Quote, we're excited about the 2020 version of Will Fuller. I mean, really, he's hyping up the Will Fuller 2020. If you ever ordered anything off one of those stupid infomercials, here would be your infomercial for the new 2020 Will Fuller. Introducing the all-new 2020 Will Fuller. Hamstring fully attached. Groin working fine. With the 2020 Will Fuller, you're going to have big games. 1 out of every 5 times. The other 4 times, he'll disappear. The 2020 Will Fuller, it might get you to the playoffs, but it'll be on a milk cart. It's somewhere at the end of the year. That's your 2020 Will Fuller. You can buy him for $29.99.
Will Fuller injury is not guaranteed for the price of the Will Fuller 2020 version.
SB Nation Tonight, weeknights at 10 Eastern on SB Nation Radio.
Wake up call. What'd you make of the president getting asked about Joe Exotic?
Now, here's the only thing. Here's the only thing I don't like. I don't like the fact that Trump was lying to us
about
not having watched Tiger King.
Yeah, right. Come on.
Come on. You know, he's going through the whole thing. He's like, is that Joe Exotic? I'm like, yeah, you know. Shut up.
Come on.
Come on, Mr. President. You know who Joe Exotic is.
Please, everybody does.
Wake Up Call with Tony D and Ron Culver. Weekday mornings. Pushing the odds with Matt Perrault.
Joe Theismann here on Pushing the Odds. How has quarantine life been for you?
Probably the most important word that we can all consider is patience with everybody. I know everybody's sort of going stir crazy. I mean, let's face it. This is something we're not used to as a society. We move quite rapidly, but now we're forced to sort of reevaluate the important things in life. And I think it's good in that regard. Matt, I've said this for a long time. If you have your health, you have wealth. Wealth has nothing to do with what your bank account looks like. If you have your health, then you are a very wealthy person. Now it's important that we understand that you want to be able to keep social distancing so that everybody can stay healthy. And the more we can practice that, every day that we can practice that, every day we can buy a day for the scientists to be able to come up with a cure or a vaccine, it's a day closer to having this craziness end. And life will never be the same.
Pushing the Odds with Matt Peralt. Weekday afternoons from 1 to 4 Eastern on SB Nation Radio. Pharrell.
Coast to coast. I do Pharrell coast to coast on SB Nation from 4 to 6 Eastern. It's my Sports Grid show. I know you love it. I'm talking to the coolest people in sports, unique characters, you name it, I bring it to you. Wait till you get a load of me when I'm on at 7 p.m. Eastern. We do a show called In Game Live, where I show you how much of an in-game betting problem that I have.
Pharrell Coast to Coast with Scott Pharrell. Weekdays from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern.
Wake up call. You know what? I think Tiger King is probably going to be the thing.
That'll be.
How did you get through the great quarantine? Let me tell you the story of a guy and his tigers, and another guy and his sex cult, and a woman that fed her husband to the lions. I mean, it's just going to be.
Do you think Oklahoma, in some way, some fashion, or maybe the country as a whole, we should have a Joe Exotic statue? A place,
a great idea.
A beacon of hope, a beacon of light that we can all travel to once the quarantine is over. So
Take
we
our
can
families.
do mass gatherings. So generations from now, we can sit there and say, guys, this man right here is what got us through 2020.
I think it's a great idea.
What up, man?
Good idea. Joe Exotic statue.
Oh, shit. You know what?
The great hero.
I'm sorry. I didn't text you back, man. We were all good, though. Yeah. No, I'm sorry. Today was crazy. And I just realized because I was going to text you a link to see if you got it. But I just saw that I never texted. I could have sworn I did, being like, no, it's all good. But yeah. Sorry, man. You know, if that's always the case where if I don't respond, I'm just in my head.
Use and visit each spot to make sure you get the best experience. And if you're coming back, sign up for.
What did you want for the tweet, too?
.com.
You can put too much draft info.
Houston, Dallas, Austin, Fort Worth, or San Antonio. Check out culturemap.com.
Pacino versus the World, and we have a guest at 7:40. Thor Nystrom at Thor KU.
The expert team personally reviews and visits to make sure you get the best experience. And if you're coming back, sign up for free Culture Map updates at
I just texted you his number.
culturemap.com.
Yeah, and if Jack had that cut from Schefter, it's I don't know if you okay, cool. Yeah, I want to use that again because that shit is crazy.
Ready for an oil change? Now in this day and age, I've had teams tell me it's more important than ever to have a backup quarterback in this pandemic.
Get a $7 gift card after we're talking about having a backup quarterback
Yes, sir.
in the pandemic. Okay. Every day.
O'Reilly.
Auto must not be very happy.
Me? No.
Yeah. Oh shoot.
What's wrong?
I didn't realize he put the second level.
It's fine. Don't worry about it. It's totally cool. All good. I forgot to tell him, so I didn't even realize it.
Easy, obvious conclusions.
You got to do some smart thinking.
Welcome to the second level. On SB Nation Radio,
And on SBNationRadio.com.
where we go beyond the box score. Presented by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Rocket Mortgage is with you every step of the way. From the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, here's your
Mike's hot.
Ender.
Mention this as we rounded out the first hour. We're live again on Twitch, twitch.tv/Shander Show, at Shander Show on Twitter, and 800-224-2004. Jack is out. He's back with us the first hour of tomorrow's show, 6 to 9 Eastern. John Bellman now in the house for the final two. Busy hour, as I mentioned the story that ESPN actually addressed. You know it's bad, and you know you're feeling the heat when you have to address your insensitivity. When you have to not only address but justify your own insensitivity. Now, what type of person does that? A psychopath, right? A monster. That's the type of person that would come out publicly and justify their own insensitivity. Well, look, you took it the wrong way. I didn't mean to be insensitive. You took it the wrong way. That's usually how these things start. And then they just completely break down into yelling and screaming. And no, I was right. Monster. No, I'm not a monster. You just need to accept what I'm saying. I don't get what the hell's going on with the production crew. I don't get what's going on with the graphics department. I don't get what's going on. As much as we praise the guy for at least being able to speak better than Roger Goodell, I have no idea what the hell is going on with Trey Wingo and the rest of the panel up there talking about these players like they are defined by tragedy. It is awkward, invasive, and rather ridiculous. Mention this poll here going on with De Niro, Pacino, Liotta, and Keitel. 500 votes so far. De Niro selected as the actor with the most range. Come on. You really need to do better than this. It's not Al Pacino, or pardon me, Robert De Niro. Justin King at only_boy. De Niro doesn't have much range. Gangster, tough guy, not much else. Yeah, Awakenings was good, but he ain't it. I can promise you this. It's not Robert De Niro. It should be Harvey Keitel, but I know I'm not going to win that war.
Ready to own your first real home? The road to unrenting can get a bit rocky. It takes a reliable partner to right wrong turns. That's the role of a realtor, an expert voice of reason helping you navigate the rigmarole of real estate, a trusted ally who knows and represents your rights, so you can follow the right guidance on your journey home. Is your agent a realtor? Look for the R. Realtors are members of the National Association of Realtors. That's who we are.
What's up, Mike?
Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans and Rocket Mortgage. During these challenging times, our commitment to providing you with the best mortgage experience remains. We understand that hardships may arise, and we're prepared to help. Mortgage rates remain near historic lows. If you think that now is the right time to refinance your mortgage, our home loan experts are available to help 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at rocketmortgage.com.
Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. And MLSConsumerAccess.org, number 3030.
The American spirit is alive and well. And underscore the word spirit, because at a time when we could all use a little good news, this story will do the trick. The company is called Surf City Stillwater.
All right, so I'm going to try and use that Schefter cut.
Creates unique, amazing craft bourbon.
This segment coming up.
I got you. And to say their business was booming would be an understatement. Then came the pandemic. Hospitals and first responders were desperate for hand sanitizers. Without giving it a second thought, Surf City converted a massive still from creating craft bourbon to creating hundreds of gallons of FDA-approved hand sanitizer for first responders, hospitals, and others. If you live in California and you love craft bourbon, vodka, gin, or rum,
What does this floor guy cover?
visit Surf
And NFL for Roto World.
Okay, got you.
Thor KU, if you look at his.
Yeah, I found it.
Okay.
I just was doing the tweet and couldn't go search to see what his thing said.
Cheers.
This is Jesse's O'Reilly Auto Parts story.
As a nurse, not making it to work was not an option. But
Fantasy
driving through the
stuff for
snow with
Roto.
My wiper blade struggling, I just didn't feel safe.
Come on,
So I
Cade.
pulled into
How?
O'Reilly Auto Parts, and before I knew it, an employee was offering to install the wiper blades on my car. I got to stay out of the snow for a moment, and I still made it to work on time.
Cade, how?
I got you.
All right, awesome. Thanks, brother. You know I'm going to bring this up, right? So I'll give you the opportunity to respond now in the break.
Website for anyone interested in what's happening in the world of automobiles. From reviews on the latest vehicles to vintage
Come on.
to tips on keeping your family safe on the road.
And look, we did a lot in the first hour, so it's not going away. I'm more than happy to bring it back up. But you can like what they did in the final day. It doesn't take away the deep impact, negative, mind you, that Hertz on this team is going to have.
This is SB Nation Radio.
And SBNationRadio.com.
presented by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans, live from the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios. Here's
Mike's hot.
So we had this poll going in honor of Al Pacino's 80th birthday. And I threw the 4 actors that I thought, including Pacino, of course, would best make up this group that you could kind of, and I think there was maybe 1 or 2 guys I left off, and I did throw Liotta in there because of Goodfellas, and I think a long list of activity on screen that would, and I thought, at least based on these poll results, maybe not, that would at least warrant a discussion about his range. But they're all in a similar category. So yes, as some people, I did not put in Denzel Washington. I did not put in, somebody said Daniel Day-Lewis. No, I'm not putting LeBron James in a group of guys who barely made the All-Star team. And it doesn't mean that they're not Hall of Famers in their own right here, and De Niro, Pacino, and Harvey Keitel, who's probably one of the most underrated actors in the history of anybody on screen. The poll itself was just who has the most range, because a lot of these, all 4 of these guys, range isn't usually the first thing that comes to mind. And then, and this is where I added a little more fun to it, hopefully, or at least a twist to it. Give me the movie to rep each one. So first movie or best movie maybe that comes to mind to rep De Niro, Pacino, Liotta, and Keitel. Only stipulation, of course, is it can't be the same movie. Al Pacino is 80 years old. 80 years old. I don't know what you expected from the NFL draft heading into Thursday night, or where we are right now as this thing is pretty much done, but it went off really well. This was a great production. I think the NFL, its broadcast partners, they nailed it. There was always going to be some sort of fear of technical issues, and I think there were a couple, right? I mean, something was going on in Vrabel's house where I don't count the dog in for Belichick. That looks staged. You had a couple of things, the whole thing with CeeDee Lamb's phone. You had a couple of things that jumped out that you knew just because of live video in that type of setting, it was going to happen. But the crew, the broadcast execution, it all went off fantastic. It was a really cool piece of television that we all needed. And you know what? It lived up to it. I'm going to be disappointed about Jalen Hurts for a long time because it's not going away. The problem that the Eagles created by drafting Jalen Hurts is not going away anytime soon. The problem that the Packers addressed, see the difference? Not created by drafting Jordan Love, is going away at the end of this year. So at least Packers fans are going to have some sort of clarity and some sort of closure on the Aaron Rodgers era before moving on to Jordan Love. Here in Philadelphia, it's a little different. But that's individual stuff. That's the drafting of your own team stuff. That's also arbitrary compared to what another team might have done. Denver, for example, shouldn't feel bad at all about what happened over the last 3 days. All of that aside, as far as you and your team day by day through these 3 days in the draft, the presentation was fantastic. And you know what? Even if the only thing, and maybe especially, if the only thing we have to really make fun of is how awkward Roger Goodell is, then so be it. That isn't even a rip on the broadcast. That's just, guys, find a better host. You don't need to continually parade Roger Goodell out. We talked about this on a Friday show. Ron and I were trying to solicit responses. Nance or Romo, these guys seem to be some of the best. I still think you could bring in a Gervais, that type, Oscar type host, but anybody other than Goodell. That's the only nitpicking that was going on. And that wasn't even really anything new. Roger Goodell being an awkward robot has been the norm for a while now. It didn't just happen as a result of him being in his own basement. If anything, it was exasperated. That was the catalyst for it becoming an even bigger issue. No, the broadcast was fantastic. A+, except for one thing. Except for something that was so awkward and was, now I say in hindsight, as this thing is over. completely unnecessary, dominated conversation, not only on social media, but the very platform pushing this. And the latest, or one of the worst examples of this just being over the top and unnecessary, was ESPN's insistence on violating these players' privacy. And not to say that they didn't sign off on, yeah, you can mention it, but it felt like one of these reality type show waivers. Hey, you've been through trauma X. Can we mention it on the show? Oh, yeah, no problem. Absolutely. Go ahead. Here's a waiver. You can mention it. Mention is then defined by 30-minute vignette. I can promise you, I do not need to know intricate details about a player's family member who suffered some sort of tragedy, who went through some sort of tragic loss, maybe even lost their life or was murdered or something along those lines. I do not need to know this about any young man coming into the NFL. I do not. And coming up in 7 minutes, I'll tell you a story about something I do and you do need to know about a draftee coming into the NFL. There's a really big difference between whether or not some young man coming out of Colorado's mother got and then survived the West Nile virus. And before you think I'm making this up, just check my Twitter account, @ShanderShow. It is out of control. The level of, hey, you need to know this, intrusion. It is out of control. The level of detail from a tragic and personal standpoint that ESPN feels and then had to double down and explain to the world, no, this is what we're doing and why we're doing it. You've been called out for 3 straight days about making people feel uncomfortable. And to just prove how tone deaf of an organization they continually are up there in Bristol, unless they're actually airing live games, which is like making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Really difficult to mess that up. What continues to just go unnoticed, apparently, by people, and this goes to show you the type of people making these decisions, they're not you and I. They're not going through what you and I are going through. I can promise you this. The people who made the decision in the draft on top of whatever ESPN Bristol suite that it was to focus on somebody's mother catching and then surviving West Nile virus, or their father dying because he slipped on gravel and was hit by a Mack truck, or anything else that's just unnecessary knowledge and information about a young man, where it should be about all of the things he did to get to this point. An amazing accomplishment, a unique accomplishment, something that 220 people or so are going to accomplish each and every year. And then that isn't even the number of people who make teams. Let them live. Let them have a moment. But it just proves that these people who are making these decisions are so far removed from your reality, from my reality, from our day-to-day of struggling to know what comes next in a pandemic. Why would anybody sitting through a pandemic where you're quarantined at home, you can't work, you don't know when money's coming in, you don't know how to feed your kids, you don't know if you're going to get your job back from a furlough or just flat out fired. Why would anybody want more bad information coming their way, sad information coming their way? Why would anybody sitting on the couch crave that? Why would anybody going through the day-to-day struggles that so many of us are dealing with in this pandemic, not knowing what the future holds? And for some, that future might be tonight. And for some, that might be next month. Who knows? But every single thing, every single moment now matters. And that's what you want? That's what you want to get out of your TV broadcast when it's one of the most special nights or one of the biggest accomplishments ever for a kid coming into the NFL draft, and you want to know on some slug next to their name that his mother caught and then survived West Nile virus in 2012? Do you see how ridiculously insensitive, A, that is, and B, out of touch with your audience that is? Nobody wants to sit through more tragic news when you get it nonstop from the actual news. What is going through their minds? I can't paint you a clearer picture right now of how out of touch suits are that made this decision to double down and go that way. And you know what? I don't care if he's a mouthpiece or he actually believes this, but Trey Wingo told on himself as well. Anybody who came on and doubled down with, well, this is what we're doing, doubled down, told on themselves. You're not going through what we're going through. And that's okay. You could be a rich millionaire, 2 times, 3 times over, and you could be all jacked up Cliff Kingsbury style. But just admit it. Understand that you're dealing with a completely different reality than 90% of this country right now. Warranted shutdown or not, economic stopping being warranted with the virus or not, that's inconsequential because we're all stuck in it. 90% of us are stuck in it. And part of the people that are not stuck in it, that can just sit back and relax, that's a luxury. Do you realize that? Right now, for you to be able to sit through and just ingest as much tragic, sad stuff as humanly possible on nights, not one night, but 3 nights in which this should all be about positivity and all be about something happy and a distraction. Do you realize how well off you need to be through this pandemic to have that type of luxury, to not worry about real life and actually worry about fake life? And in this case, it's all real to the kids, but it's coming across contrived and purposeful, meaning on purpose by the broadcast to create some new presentation, some unique creative presentation about the draft. Well, we're going virtual and we wanted to give you the human element of it. You know what the human element of it is? Show me this kid busting his ass for the last 8 years. Show me scouting reports that said he's not going to make it in the NFL. And then show me overcoming that stuff. I don't need to know that a young man's mother contracted and survived West Nile virus. You don't either. You're not living through this luxury. Neither am I. We're worried about what the hell is going to happen tomorrow and when the hell we can all get back to work consistently. Even I recognize the luxury that I'm in, having a chance to work. Do you know how many people are out there following along, listening, wherever, however they can consume this show, that aren't working, that don't know when the next time is they can come back? And yes, even I realize that I'm a step away from that because I'm fortunate and lucky, just damn lucky enough to be able to continue to do this. I'm not going to turn around and rub it in your face and bring up sad and tragic stuff. Can you imagine if I just sat here for 3 hours and did sad, unnecessarily bad things to bring you down even more so? It's unnecessary and it's insulting. And you know what? Most importantly, it's an unnecessary violation of these young men's privacy based on everything that they've accomplished and the night that it should be. I don't care if you get drafted 3rd overall or if you get drafted 300th. Which isn't the case, but still, all the way at the end of the draft. Mr. Irrelevant. Mr. Irrelevant shouldn't have anything like this, nor should number 3. I don't care if you're Joe Burrow or Joe Johnson. Doesn't matter to me. I don't need to know this, and you don't need to know this about them either. There are so many things we can celebrate about them. These kids need to control their own narrative. J.K. Steveser on Twitch. But current former players need to let these kids know. I agree. It's the first time that this has happened, so hopefully them going through it will let ESPN know. But what's the future? Next year, we need to know that 1 out of every 3 people on the board is going to say he had coronavirus or his mom had coronavirus and survived. We don't need this. You don't need this. It's awful. And you know what? It is big enough of an issue for me to bog down. I do have to smudge out that A+. I can't give this a perfect night as much as I'd like for 3 straight. The draft had a major issue, and that was this direction that for some reason the NFL and the broadcast teams decided to go with, which is reminding you and bringing up all these tragic issues and moments surrounding kids' families where it should have just been, because you have so much to do, all positive. At Shander Show, twitch.tv/Shander Show. We'll update you on this poll. Bunch of good responses when it comes to the movie to represent Al Pacino versus the world. We'll get to that next here on the Second Level.
Dan Buck of Oakdale Swings here. I'm putting the odds. The most angry I've ever been at you was when you shot me with a paintball gun. Do you remember why you shot me with the paintball gun?
Yeah, I don't know. There might have been a girl involved or something, to be honest with you. That's usually how these things work. But I do remember it because it was radio promotion. We were at this paintball place, and I think we were just getting on each other's nerves like 20-year-old dudes do. And you put your hands up, and I took a free shot at you. And you did not appreciate it one bit. So I don't know if I ever apologized for that, but if I didn't, sorry, Matt.
I remember my rib cage being like so sore for like 3 days afterward. You hit me like 4 times. It wasn't like one shot. It was like multiple pulling pulls of the trigger too that you got me on.
Geez,
so.
it's like you completely have not forgotten about it.
Pushing the Odds with Matt Peralt. Weekday afternoons from 1 to 4 Eastern on SB Nation Radio. Game time decisions.
What's up, everybody? I am Gabriel Morency inviting you. No, I'm not inviting you. I'm telling you. Join me in a Raging Redhead Cab Store weekdays at 6 Eastern as we throw it down on the loudest station in the nation, SB Nation Radio. It's Game Time Decisions with Gabriel Morency and a Raging Redhead Cab Store weekdays at 6 Eastern on SB Nation Radio. Bring it.
Game time decisions with Gabe Morency and Cam Stewart. Weekdays at 6 p.m. Eastern. SB Nation Tonight with John Michaels.
Did you see the latest on Kevin Durant where he said he played with a bunch of athletes, but not a bunch of guys that could shoot or play? Dude, Russell Westbrook and James Harden were on your team. I get it. Kendrick Perkins wasn't a very skilled big man. Thabo Sefolosha was a great defensive guy, and that's it. Don't do this 6, 7, 8 years later where you're calling guys out. You sound like a candy ass when you do that. I thought it was soft as hell when he left, but to not be hypocritical, it is free agency. You are free to go play wherever the hell you want when you're a free agent. But why years later are you trashing guys that you used to play with? And whenever you're healthy again, you're now going to play against. I'm going to tell you, if I'm Russell Westbrook and I'm James Harden and I go against Kevin Durant, I'm putting the Slim Reaper on his rear end, telling him, shut the hell up. You were part of the reason we couldn't get the job done.
SB Nation Tonight, weeknights at 10 Eastern on SB Nation Radio.
Wake up call. If Jacksonville up and moves to London, are we going to be scrambling to get Jacksonville an NFL team?
Not at all.
No.
Had your chance. Blew it.
Yeah.
Had your chance.
Not our problem. San Diego, no one is trying to figure out a way to get a team back in San Diego until they have an NFL stadium.
That's right. Same thing with Oakland.
Yep.
Same thing with Oakland. It's like,
although
no.
the Raiders will move back in 10 years.
Yeah, they'll figure it out.
Wake Up Call with Tony D and Ron Culver. Weekday mornings. This is SB Nation Radio,
And SBNationRadio.com.
presented by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans, live from the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios. Here's Eitan.
Mike's not.
Thor Nystrom from RotoWorld is going to join us 10 minutes from now. He's just put out a list at ThorKU on Twitter on the top undrafted free agents still out there. So we'll get his thoughts on that. And I don't know, maybe you can try to talk me off the ledge about the Jalen Hurts pick. But between that and Jordan Love, it has to be the biggest just hand on your face moment of the draft. I don't know. I don't know what the heck was going on in Mike Vrabel's house. It did look like somebody was going to the bathroom there. But outside of that, I mean, really, what else do you have? You don't have a ton, I think, of crazy moments that we expected. Like Dave Gettleman didn't screw anything up. The draft itself, maybe. We'll chat with Matt Lombardo. He covers the Giants coming up in 40 minutes, just over an hour from now. We'll chat with John Marks here in Philadelphia because I need help. I can't be the only one that's this mad and this upset in Philly. I see people rationalizing now the Jalen Hurts pick, and that's just not for me. Sorry. I can look and separate what happened day 3 and say, hey, a team addressed a need. Good. You got a ton of speed. Yes, they'll be able to win any track meet in the world right now, outside of anything that Bolt might compete with. But those are separate issues. Addressing needs at the back end of the draft, good, you did your job. creating an unnecessary quarterback controversy is not doing your job. And here's the problem. When you draft Jalen Hurts as a backup quarterback in the second round, you really have one of two things that are going to happen. He's either not going to pan out, he's not going to play well, he's going to be stuck there as a backup quarterback. He'll be better than Nate Sudfeld, which, again, you want to talk about a low-ass bar. Welcome to it. But he'll still be associated with a pick in the top 55 range where you're like, what else was on the board? Oh, man, look around. And before you stop, and I speak for a lot of people here in Philadelphia, we were doing this with Earl Thomas and Brandon Graham for about 5 years, it felt like. Looking and watching Earl Thomas play out in Seattle, Legion of Boom and all this, and just cursing Andy Reid at the time for drafting Brandon Graham over a safety that the team desperately needed. So, yeah, people are going to be looking at a ton of different prospects who were taken after Hurts. If, in fact, Hurts doesn't work out, you're going to be left there holding the bag as a fan asking, Howie, what the hell did you do? Howie Roseman, why? A flip side is Jalen Hurts comes out, starts throwing the football really well. Jalen Hurts starts playing, and this whole Taysom Hill thing takes off, and he starts to move the football down the field. Well, what's going to happen with Carson Wentz? You're not going to then justifiably continue with two quarterbacks. So at some point, it's going to put a ton of pressure on Carson Wentz, and we just saw what that was. It impacted him. It affected him. He even admitted that it affected him when the whole Nick Foles and the ghost of Foles was here. It doesn't add up. And it's unfortunate, mainly for the quarterback who you've told ahead of time before the draft, hey, we're building around you. And this is the crux of the show. This is the centerpiece of the show tonight. The difference in Green Bay versus Philadelphia, in my opinion, is Green Bay, they were told. Green Bay, they were given some sort of edict or some sort of demand or just some sort of, I've had it, maybe even past that, where it's like, that's it, I'm done. And at that point, the Packers were left with no other choice but to address the future. And yes, they have it in their DNA to do that before. Eagles do not. Not in this case. And there is no comparison that you can make because the Eagles themselves initiated this versus the Packers who were given this information from Aaron Rodgers. That's the biggest difference for me. And I'm not going to believe any of this nonsense. In fact, John, if we can before the break, I want you to hear the Schefter cut one more time. This is the most ridiculous explanation you're going to hear at all. I promise you at all when it comes to why the Philadelphia Eagles took a quarterback with their second pick in the draft.
Now, in this day and age, I've had teams tell me it's more important than ever to have a backup quarterback in this pandemic. We're going to be playing next year. Coronavirus is out there, COVID-19. What if your quarterback gets the virus? It's an interesting situation here. I think there are more problems now than ever before. And so I think teams are looking to shore up the most important position in this sport. And that's why the Eagles did it.
Yeah. That's why everybody else did that too. That's why you saw everybody take a quarterback in the first round. Think about this. Most important position on the planet outside of Jason Martinez telling you that it's a hockey goalie. Most important player and position, I should say, on the planet. Quarterback. The NFL has made it the most important position on the planet. So if Schefter's logic holds up, then everybody would be taking a backup quarterback because it's such a necessary and key position that if your quarterback happens to get COVID-19, I can't even believe I'm saying this with a straight face, then you're covered. Hey, if Matthew Stafford got it, he's covered. Why the hell didn't Matt Patricia draft a quarterback? Why didn't so many other teams who have quarterbacks locked in? Falcons, A.J. Terrell, cornerback? Come on. You had 5 quarterbacks on the board you could have drafted just in case Matt Ryan got sick. It's ridiculous. It's stupid. It's trivial. It's nonsense. Thor Nystrom next.
Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans.
All right. You got his number, right, bro?
Yeah, I got you.
We're all experiencing, Our top priority is
I like Schefter too. I'm surprised he said something.
Oh, look, me too. I am a big fan of his. I just don't think that it was him who said. I think
to giving you
that's what he got from a team.
Handed that, like they told him that. Somebody told him that.
Yeah,
time.
I have no doubt.
exceptions, no excuses exists for times like right.
Yeah, but I mean, honestly, I think he should have been a little more aware not to go out there and be like, coronavirus.
Well, that's why I feel like
At rocketmortgage.com.
just the times that I've had the
you,
chances, like I used to have him on when I was doing mornings on the Fanatic, so he was on with us once a week, and then I would fill in for the main guy when he was out, so I'd talk to him a bunch too. And even getting to meet and chat with him during the draft when the draft was here in Philly, he's
as the novel coronavirus
he's not that guy. He's not going to make that up, and I feel like the justification in his mind for saying that is because he was told that verbatim.
If you are
Yeah, right. And again, I mean, we're live on the stream, so I don't want to.
Now, if it comes out that the Philly GM actually said that as the reason.
Oh, I have no doubt. Somebody on that, I have no doubt. Somebody on that team mentioned that.
in all 50 states and Ro's free online assessment will help determine if you are at risk, and if appropriate, Ro will connect you with a medical provider for a free consultation.
No,
The
Mike,
assessment is
that's the
designed by
problem
doctors
is that
and
it's
infectious
not
disease experts in the
it's
space.
not that. It's not, hey, we're going to
Visit Ro.co
they don't specifically tell these kids what they're going to say.
to complete a free online assessment or to just learn
And
more.
some probably did. Some probably didn't realize what the nature of it. It's not like they shoot these packages ahead of time and then show them the family, hey, this is what the production package is going to look like, talking about your dad getting killed.
New York State by manufacturing mattresses and pillows and donating them to hospitals and emergency medical.
That makes sense?
This keeps workers employed and helps medical and government agencies prepare and respond to this moment of need. To support this effort,
All right, floor's on for you.
they've set up a temporary
Sweet.
code that lets you help. When you use code GOODNESS at BullenBranch.com, you will get 10% off your purchase, and 10% of the proceeds will go directly to fund this effort. Bull and Branch has already committed 1,000 mattresses and 5,000 pillows for hospitals and emergency operations, and that commitment is firm. But with your help, they can make even more. You can contribute $100 to cover the cost of a mattress that will be donated to a hospital in need. Go to bullandbranch.com and use code GOODNESS to help. bullandbranch.com, promo code GOODNESS. Restrictions may apply. See bullandbranch.com for details.
This is SB Nation Radio,
And SBNationRadio.com.
presented by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans, live from the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios. Here's Eitan Shea.
All right, we'll take a break from me yelling and screaming about Jalen Hurts for just a minute here and look at some of the bigger pictures. In fact, as mentioned and retweeted for you to do some homework before this interview, we retweeted Thor's list, and it keeps coming, of best available undrafted free agents. Continues to go at Thor KU is how you can follow Thor Nystrom, and of course covers all things NFL for Roto World, NBC Sports, rotoworld.com. Thor, Eitan Shander, appreciate the time tonight, man.
Absolutely. Good to be here.
Let's start out there in Minneapolis. What's the general feel so far about what the Vikings did? I can say here in Philadelphia, for anybody who wanted Justin Jefferson, there's a lot of talk about that guy now going to Minnesota and being a nice, easy replacement for Diggs. But just curious overall, local to you, how that team and the fan base is reacting to their draft.
It's a grand slam draft. Yeah, I mean, Rick Spielman really needed one with the offseason they just had. Obviously, a lot of veterans were leaving the team. They gave Cousins the extension. They were in this sort of middle ground, sort of like your car straddling, the middle lane in the highway, and you're going to get pulled over unless you sort of pick a direction. They traded Diggs, and a lot of defensive starters were leaving. There was that uncertainty with Harris, and stuff like that. And they hit a grand slam in this draft. You start in the first round. Justin Jefferson falls to you. That was something that nobody anticipated. And then with the second first round pick, you're able to trade down, get free extra picks, essentially still get Jeff Gladney, who if Jeff Gladney had been there in their original slot, they would have been thrilled. You know, I mean, like thinking about it just originally. And then, I mean, like, you know, you just go down in their other picks. Ezra Cleveland at the 58th pick, grand slam pick.
Yeah.
Cameron Dantzler in the 3rd round, grand slam pick. James Lynch in the 4th round, grand slam pick. Troy Dye in the 4th round, grand slam pick. Harrison Hand in the 5th round. I mean, like, these are guys that should not have been there. I mean, just keep going down. Kenny Willekes in the 7th round. That was a guy who beforehand, you know, we thought probably a middle round type guy, and he has athleticism questions and stuff like that. But I don't know if you guys saw his Twitter video that he put out where he was doing all this ridiculous stuff like Neo in the Matrix doing backflips and running up walls and stuff like this. He was trying to prove to people that he's more athletic than they think. But he was a guy who was a super productive edge rusher at Michigan State. At least they bring him in. You know, you see what you got. Nate Stanley, you know, is a guy who was a 3-year starter in a pro style system at Iowa. Up and down the board, they absolutely destroyed the thing. Now, the Vikings, if they didn't have the best draft in the NFL this year, they had one of the top 3.
Yeah, just listening to it top to bottom, it's one of the deeper drafts when you look at selection and addressing needs. I am curious, what's going through your mind as you see the pick is in, or maybe before it gets leaked by whoever leaked it at 21. The Eagles have both Jefferson and Rager on the board. Are you and others, you think, in Minnesota thinking, all right, you know, we have to start either it's Rager or maybe we look at somebody else?
Yeah, and I'm cool with the Eagles taking Rager.
Me too.
You know, I mean,
Me too.
Absolutely, yeah. I think Rager was a kid who was underrated, you know, by the public in general, and it was mostly contextual. Rager was the kid who had the lowest percentage of on-target balls thrown to him last year in this entire draft class.
Wow.
Yeah, it was like 33%. And what people need to understand is TCU's quarterback situation last year and the year before was an absolute abomination.
Terrible.
It was like having JUCO quarterbacks, basically. and Jalen Rager, it's not like he's T. Higgins, you know, with this enormous, like, Indian god type catch radius. He's a slot receiver type with just awesome athleticism, but he doesn't have a huge catch radius. You have to have a quarterback who can get him the ball with good accuracy, and he essentially had the exact inverse of that. So he just wasn't allowed to show what his special sauce was, and, you know, get him the ball, let him run with the ball in space. And so, like, but the Eagles are going to have that. You know, Wentz is going to be able to get him the ball, and his game is really going to level up. And then just as far as the Vikings, you know, I mean, like, once those two guys were there, the Eagles had their pick a guy, which was fine. I mean, I'm sure the Vikings would have been thrilled with whoever the Eagles, you know, they didn't pick or whatever.
So it was one or the other.
Vikings too. Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, I am curious to get your thoughts on the two big head scratchers. Let's start. I guess we could do it in chronological order. Let's start with the Packers drafting Jordan Love. I'm assuming that you're a Vikings fan, right? Being from there. Okay. Okay. So I'm sure you had a little extra joy. Probably that entire division did when that happened. But as far as mixing the two, Vikings fan and one of the top fantasy writers in the country, how are you looking at that as far as the reaction for that pick?
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. Just in terms of value, it's okay. I mean, that's sort of where I had him ranked just as a draft property. But, like, for the team, it's really weird. You know, like, I assumed that it was going to be a team that was further away from the contention window. I mean, you're the Packers. You have probably 2 years left. You have a few weaknesses to address here, you know, specifically a pass catcher. And, you know, we're talking about Rager, Jefferson. After those two guys, there was still a bunch of stud receivers on the board, and we saw all of them start to get plucked off the board right away on Friday night. You know, I mean, like, you know, T. Higgins and Denzel Mims and Laviska Shenault and all these guys. And, like, Packer fans I know, because I interact with them, a bunch of them on Twitter, they were salivating over all those guys. You know, they were like, oh my gosh, we're going to get one of these guys, you know, or whatever. And then all of a sudden, Goodell, you know, Mr. Rogers there in his basement with his cardigan on, comes up and says Jordan Love. And there was a lot of mouses and keyboards and laptops thrown across rooms, you know, in places across Wisconsin, you know, on Thursday night or whatever. Like, again, just a really random place and a random landing spot for him to go. Everyone knows the narrative there. Where in 2018 he put up bazooka numbers, and last year, you know, really fell off when, you know, some NFL talent like Darwin Thompson, you know, he left, and a couple of Ron Quavian Tarver, Dax Raymond left Utah State. Their coaching staff left, their offensive line left, and you still saw some of the flashes of his talent for sure. He's a big kid. He's a very athletic kid. The ball shoots out of his hand. He's comfortable in the pocket, etc. But the decision making, which had been in some ways problematic before, you saw sort of the opposite. We say flashes, but you also saw flashes of just problematic decision making, where that became more and more problematic to the point where it became troubling last year, where his TDI&T ratio was barely over 1-to-1. And he would do things where he would be like throwing the ball into chest plates of linebackers, like on consecutive passes, and stuff like that, where it was just like frustration mixed with trying to put too much on his shoulders and stuff like that. I guess the one fortunate thing for him is that he's going to get to sit behind a quarterback where he can sort of marinate for a year or two. But I don't know how much Mr. Rogers is going to be comfortable showing him the ropes and stuff like that, or if Love can even get there. So it's a weird fit. And it also doesn't help the Packers in their aim to compete this coming season. And the Vikings just got a whole lot better. So
Yeah.
The NFC North is going to be very interesting this year.
And Nick Foles is in Chicago, right? So that you never know.
There you go.
Thor, I'm curious. All right, this is the biggest question of the night, and I have kid, of course, with Foles in Chicago. Thor Nystrom joining us at ThorKU on Twitter, RotoWorld, NBC Sports, RotoWorld.com. And let me preface this question by saying not only was I, and I still am, a fan of Jalen Hurts, thought that he was going to be a good quarterback in the NFL given the shot, even hit that under 55.5 of his draft selection. But I ask you, Thor, who do you think threw more laptops? And yes, Philadelphia stereotypes can be thrown in here as I'm in Philly myself. Who threw more laptops? Packers fans Friday night or Packers fans Thursday night or Eagles fans Friday night?
That would be interesting. We'd have to go to the WinStar online to figure that one out.
I'm sure we could get odds, right?
Probably be very, very close. I'm gonna say that Philly probably did more, just because we've seen Philly fans that are a bit more riled up than the Packer fans. The Packer fans are a bit more docile. So
True.
In terms of temperament, I think I'm gonna go with Philly fans. Yeah.
Do you have any idea? Any idea what the hell they're thinking?
I really don't, unless it's a thing, where they're assuming like, both sub package and insurance, where they just think like, in terms of both of those, we're going to suck enough value out of Jalen Hurts in sub packages and in terms of insurance, where we can sort of recoup some of that value. And then, if he shows well enough in that and in the preseason, even if Wentz proves that he's healthy, we're going to go forward with him, that we can maybe cash in this as a trade chip in a couple years and at least get back a second rounder. That would be my best guess, but it still is a bit head scratching. Yeah, it is a bit just because of the destination. It's another one where, Hurts in terms of the value there, I'm fine with that. I mean, that's sort of around where in terms of where I rank him, I'm totally fine with it. But just as far as where he landed, it's an odd one.
And just to further this, it's a quarterback controversy that's unnecessary, because what happens, first off, the obvious is, okay, Jalen Hurts struggles and nobody's going to have a fair offseason anyway, assuming that sports returns without fans in the fall. So he's not even going to have a full rookie camp, all that other stuff. I don't know what to expect unless, of course, worst case scenario where Wentz gets hurt. But if Hurts himself struggles, Thor, then people are going to be all over Howie Roseman. Why the heck did you do this? Second round, Mims, all these other wide receivers, bodies on the board, etc. If he actually starts panning out, makes throws, makes plays, is 3 for 3 in these games for, 80 yards and a touchdown, you know how it's going to work. And it's not just going to be Philadelphia that would be guilty of this, but the next time Wentz throws an incomplete pass, people are going to be like, all right, put Jalen Hurts in.
I think it's a tremendous point, because just in the same way that I said, like you could use Hurts as a trade chip, if Wentz, if he's the guy you're going to go forward with, you can look at it the other way, which is to say, like, if Hurts flashes, but Wentz is struggling, Wentz's trade value is going to crater, where you might have to slough him off in the same way that, Foles and some of these other guys have been sloughed off, where if you had to play Hurts and all of a sudden Wentz is just in a backup role where he is just ludicrously overpaid, and you have to get him out of there. He's just discontented, etc. So, yeah, I mean, that's going to be a weird thing to navigate going forward. And, we'll see how they do it. But they clearly have some sort of a plan. I don't know that they explained this to Wentz beforehand because I'm not sure if they thought Hurts was going to be there. But they must have been sitting dead red on him to be able to pick him there. But, yeah, just a weird plan in general.
All right, so I'm curious because a couple of these names have already been signed, and you're all over this, so I want to direct people at Thor KU. You've been tweeting not only links, but also the actual names of your top undrafted free agents. And I was looking at right at the top, Hunter Bryant and Anthony Gordon, the quarterback. It looks like Gordon signed with the Seahawks. Any surprise there?
I'm good on the Seahawks. Gordon should have been drafted, and I'm stunned that he wasn't. I'm not sure why. At least with Hunter Bryant, who is the guy that everyone had rated high. I had Hunter Bryant rated lower than most, and I had him 108. But with him, he had injury concerns, and he's just a move tight end. And move tight ends, I think their value is depreciating a little bit because I think people now, because slot receiver, that's going up in value, and you're thinking like, why wouldn't I just have the more explosive player on the field if they're not going to block anyway? But at least with Anthony Gordon has real arm talent. And, and we saw him throw for over 5,000 yards last year. He had one of the top 10 seasons in terms of passing yards of all time. And I watched that kid's film. I mean, he has some insane throws. And he was a kid who got the football kind of late in terms of full time. And we asked him at the combine, because one thing you see on his film is he has all these crazy off-platform throws, where you'll see him throw it like sidearm, but he'll throw like these zingers, like these frisbees. He'll throw go like 35, 40 yards, downfield, across the hashes and just, like through the window and hit someone on the hands or whatever. we sort of asked him about the off-platform throws. It seems like you're really awesome at this. Where'd you learn this stuff? And he told us, I was a middle infielder. I was a shortstop all of my life. And I started throwing like that in football. And my coaches encouraged at JUCO, because he went to JUCO at first. He said, my coaches encouraged me to do that, to just keep doing it or whatever. And so, sometimes he'll sort of remind you of, not in terms of as a player. I don't want to make it seem like that. But, he has that sort of Favrean, Mahomesian sort of flair to him where he does that sort of weird sidearm thing. But, you're like, no, yes.
Nice.
That whole thing to him. And what's weird about him not going drafted too is Gardner Minshew last year was a one-year starter at Wazoo who took off in that one season. He got drafted and he did pretty dang well last year. Now he's like a viable property in the NFL. Well, that's exactly what Anthony Gordon did. That's who I comp him to. I'm not sure why he didn't get drafted. So yeah, I mean, kudos to Seattle keeping the local kid around. I like Gordon a lot. I think that he should have been taken in the 4th, 5th round.
Awesome stuff, Thor. I can't appreciate. I thank you enough and truly appreciate you for stopping what you're doing on a crazy busy weekend and spending some time with us. And again, at Thor KU on Twitter, rotoworld.com. The list is shrinking as more players get signed, but you can see how Thor ranked them, the undrafted free agents, on Twitter and RotoWorld as well. Thank you so much, man. Hope all is well with you and yours.
Pleasure to be with you.
Awesome, man. Thanks again. Thor Nystrom on the guest line. We'll wrap the hour next here on SB Nation Radio.
Wake up call.
Ripping the Browns is kind of
Thanks,
an
man.
old hat.
Yeah, that's old hat.
That
Everybody
means
does it.
Can't do it anymore.
Buccaneers,
Not even fun.
you're now on our radar for being inept.
Going back to the
Absolutely.
glory days.
Glory days of 20 years ago.
But I'm with you with the whole glory days scenario too.
Usually glory days means I got to sit down with someone
What you thinking for this third hour?
in before mine.
And Ken Burns is narrating.
Or that over-the-top announcer that's like, and the skipper brings out Lou Gehrig out of the field, and look at him go as he hits a home run, and the Yankees win it by a score of 3-2, bidding those old Boston Red Sox.
Let's do. Oh, I have two. I had to move a guest. So I've got Matt Lombardo, NFL at 8:10. John Marks Media, JON MARKS Media at 8:40.
Joe Buck's calling your game, and that's what you consider glory days.
And
with Tony D and
we
Ron
can do
weekday mornings.
Keitel versus the world. What's that? Yes, sir. Yep.
It's Pharrell here from Sports Grid. Here's what happened. They signed
Keitel versus the world.
Put it on from 4 to 7. And then everybody else in our path, what we're doing is
Harvey. But you can just put Keitel.
I just was gonna look it up to see how to spell it.
Yep. Oh, yeah. Harvey Keitel.
Pushing the
Brett Murphy from Stadium joining us here and pushing the odds. What are you hearing from athletic directors and coaches about their preparations for what may or may not?
Got a number of contingency plans.
He's a good actor.
Late August is scheduled, or maybe even gets pushed back to the spring. The NFL to play football does not.
All right, I'm going to ask you the same question I did Jack.
College football
Put you on the
does.
spot here. Well, it wasn't fair to, I can't tell you ahead of time. I didn't tell Jack.
All over the world, it's now safe to come back.
Tomorrow, do you want to help me?
They will find out some way to get this season done, which could mean the semifinals from the Rose Bowl and the Sugar Bowl and the national title.
I was thinking maybe we can do somebody from Houston.
Pushing the odds with Matt Peralt
To cover like the Texans draft?
Yeah.
on SB Nation.
All right.
Headed to Texas. To
Doesn't
watch
matter,
the
whoever
team
you
play, but
feel good.
Don't know where to go for.
Yeah, totally cool.
In Houston, Austin, Dallas, Fort Worth, and San Antonio. From the most popular bars to those favorite dine-in gems, Culture Map has it all. Then before you leave town, why not visit some of the best places to shop or see some of the sights? Culture Map has extensive coverage on all the things to do in the city you're in. So check out culturemap.com. That's culturemap.com.
This is SB Nation Radio,
And SBNationRadio.com.
presented by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans, live from the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios. Here's Ender.
Pacino's 80th birthday, so it got a conversation going. And no, it's not best movie of all time, and tried to do it a little different and match him up with people in his league. We went LeVar Ball here and told Pacino to kind of stay in his lane. So, John, I'll ask you the same question that we asked Jack here on the program at hour one. First movie that comes to mind when you hear Al Pacino, and there's no wrong answer.
Scarface.
Why? Again, how old are you? 28?
27.
Okay.
The reason that's the reason that's the movie that comes to mind is because of the famous scene.
Say hello.
Yeah, exactly.
Same thing Jack said, and he even admitted to not even knowing if that was in that movie, but he just knew that scene because he doesn't watch as much.
Social media. I don't think
It's
I've ever
everywhere.
seen the movie. Yeah.
Right. It's all over the place. I mean, you could have a dog doing something stupid and it would be like caption, say hello to my little friend. Isn't that amazing that Pacino is remembered for that movie more so than anything? Does he have more range than Harvey Keitel? I don't think so. All right, man. I will be.
All right.
Hey, everybody.
I'll be right back.
Joey here from SB Nation's bloggingtheboys.com, your home for the best Dallas Cowboys coverage on the web. And did you know that we have a podcast feed? The Blog of the Boys podcast feed has daily, that's right, daily episodes breaking down the latest and greatest in the world of America's team. We have multiple shows, multiple analysts, including a Super Bowl winner. Two-time Super Bowl champion Tony Casillas is part of our rotation, and we want to make sure you are as well. We're available on Apple, Spotify, and wherever else you get your podcasts. So don't miss out. Subscribe to the Blog of the Boys podcast feed today.
Wake up call.
The NFL execs are holding a mock draft
That's
just to
right.
see if everything will be working properly.
Yeah.
So they don't tip their hand. They're most likely going to be selecting their franchise's greatest player.
Oh, that'll be fun. My brain is rolling through the controversy for some teams.
Yes. We need to know who you think for certain teams. For Detroit, easy.
For some, it would be
for,
difficult.
Say the Cowboys, that's going to be tough.
Of course.
For the Bears, that's
For
going
the
to be
Bears,
tough.
that's going to be really tough.
But I mean, for some teams, I mean, like I said, the Lions, easy. I mean, you only have one great player in your franchise history.
What, Eric Hipple doesn't get on the radar?
We all know who the best player in Detroit Lions history is.
Right. New York Giants.
Everyone
Is it
say
Lawrence
it.
Taylor? I would say it's Lawrence
I
Taylor.
would say it's Lawrence Taylor.
If you're Tampa Bay, do you say Tom Brady?
Wake Up Call with Tony D and Ron Culver. Weekday mornings. Pharrell,
Coast to coast. It's Pharrell, coast to coast. We're taking over the world. And I got to tell you, from the beginning, it's been kind of easy. You got to love us on SB Nation. Taking ass and taking names. Every day, 4 to 6, you catch my Sports Grid coast to coast gig. And imagine this. Once we go live again, baby, you're not going to know what hit you when I start pouring beers and shots for you.
Pharrell Coast to Coast with Scott Pharrell. Weekdays from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern. SB Nation Tonight with John Michaels.
What event do you think you'd have any chance of actually getting done? I'm trying to think. I would probably have to learn how to do one of those shooting events. I was never going to be able to do the javelin. I never could have done the shot put. I'm scared of heights, so I damn sure wasn't going to try to do the pole vault and jump over something 20 feet in the air. I don't know that there was anything I could have done. Like the swimming, no. I damn sure wasn't diving unless we could have done a cannonball off the top of the platform. I'm not diving into the water and flipping around like a maniac. You know what? Maybe if I train for like a year, I might have a shot to play some ping pong against somebody. Although, actually, no, I wouldn't. Those dudes are like 40 feet off the table, and they're and that thing's like the ball's just flying everywhere. I could never do that either. So I don't think there's anything I could do in the Olympics.
SB Nation Tonight, weeknights at 10 Eastern on SB Nation Radio.
Wake up call.
Please, God, if it does come to that, can we have the Walking Dead zombies not be World War Z?
Yeah, I don't need the fast-moving
Superhuman.
Ooh,
I'm not
Neil.
outrunning a World War Z zombie.
I'm the guy you bring because secretly you know I can't keep up with the rest of the group. Hey, I'm going to take Bob and Jim and Tony. You come with us too, and everybody knows why you're bringing me. So when push comes to shove, I'm the meal.
Wake Up Call with Tony D and Ron Culver. Weekday mornings.
Wake up call.
Please, God, if it does come to that, can we have the Walking Dead zombies not be World War Z?
Yeah, I don't need the fast-moving
Superhuman.
Ooh,
I'm not
Neil.
outrunning a World War Z zombie.
I'm the guy you bring because secretly you know I can't keep up with the rest of the group. Hey, I'm going to take Bob and Jim and Tony. You come with us too, and everybody knows why you're bringing me. So when push comes to shove, I'm the meal.
Wake Up Call with Tony D and Ron Culver. Weekday mornings. Pushing the odds with Matt Perrault.
This is the problem for a sport like baseball. It is an outdoor sport that must be played in nice weather. And the window for nice weather in certain parts of the country, Chicago, Philadelphia, New York, Boston, is quite small. I actually am somebody who believes that baseball should be going and playing in Arizona and in Florida once this thing calms down. And I think having teams be centrally located, I think finding a facility, a hotel that probably is empty and putting your team there, it stinks. You're going to be away from your family. You're going to be away from your normal life. But that to me is a must. I just don't see how in the world you put like the New York Yankees in New York. Like how?
Pushing the odds with Matt Perrault. Weekday afternoons from 1 to 4 Eastern on SB Nation Radio.
All right, I'm here.
Game time decisions.
I'm Gabriel Morency, inviting you to join me and the Raging Redhead, Cam Stewart, weekdays at 6 Eastern on SB Nation Radio, the loudest station in the nation. No games, no problem. We've got your back. Weekdays at 6, we throw it down. Best bets, props. If they're playing, we'll find a number on it. Bring it. Weekdays at 6, SB Nation Radio, game time decisions.
Game time decisions with Gabe Morency and Cam Stewart. Weekdays at 6 p.m. Eastern.
Your business ideas need a room to run wild, but there's no room for error when you're raising the bar. A reliable partner can make a real difference. That's the role of a realtor, an irreplaceable expert who represents your values, a reassuring voice of reason helping you research and reach the right decisions so you can run your business without running the risk. Is your agent a realtor? Look for the R. Realtors are members of the National Association of Realtors. That's who we are.
This is SB Nation Radio. SB Nation Radio.
And SBNationRadio.com.
Presented by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Rocket Mortgage is with you every step of the way. Live from the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios.
Mike's up.
Dander.
So one thing that's going to be lost in all of the draft stuff, and thank goodness because I need a distraction from the distraction. At by Tim Reynolds, who is confirming an ESPN report. Tim, of course, covers the NBA for the AP. Confirming ESPN report. NBA teams have been told they can reopen facilities on May 1st on a limited basis and consistent with the policies in place in each specific city. So if you're thinking right now, what is the NBA going to do? How is the NBA going to return? In what capacity can the NBA return? Well, you've been given some information, some positive information. And I have to credit Adam Silver because he told you, don't even talk to me until May 1st. And instead, when everybody was pressing all these other CEOs / commissioners, oh, give us this, give us information. Are you going to play? Are you going to play? When nobody knows anything about what's going to happen 2.5 months from now. The NBA, at the very least, has been working on their plan, but it's been under wraps to the point in which they haven't told anybody they're confident enough that it can be executed. This is the first step. It's not the end. It's not even the middle. It's the first step in being confident that you can reopen. And I don't mean just reopen a practice facility. I mean reopen the league. And I hope you're prepared for two things. Matt Lombardo, NFL, is going to join us coming up next. He covers the Giants and NFL for NJ.com. That's not what I hope you're ready for. You're locked in regardless. That's coming. But you should be ready for two things when it comes to the NBA. And this is not a bad thing. It's reality. One, no fans. No fans. You're not going to have fans in the NFL. You're not going to have fans in the NBA. You're not going to have fans anywhere. It's not going to work. It's not going to happen. They're not going to just sit every other seat or anything like that. It ain't going to be the case. Number two is you're going to see a return with just the playoffs. And you have to be okay with that. There's not going to be, they 6 games they could have just advanced and picked up the 4th seed instead of the 5th. Regular season's done. It's cooked. It's over. All you have now is the playoffs, and you have to be okay with that. I wonder how Giants fans feel after being more ridiculed than any fan base heading into this draft.
Ready to own
Okay,
your
1
first
second. I'm
real
sorry.
home? The road to unrenting can get a bit.
Hey, I need what is it, Matt Lombardo's number?
Role of a realtor. Expert voice of reason helping you navigate the rigmarole of real estate. A trusted ally who knows and represents your rights. So you get all the right guidance on your journey home. Is your agent a realtor? Look for the R. Realtors are members of the National Association of Realtors. That's who we are.
You're going on a trip, but where are you going to stay? How much will it cost? Well, it'll cost less by booking on besthotelrates.com. Besthotelrates.com works with all the top hotels in the country while delivering you great hotel and room choices for the best prices. Why wait? Go to
Hey, send me Lombardo's number.
and start shopping for your next hotel room. Besthotelrates.com. It's in the name. Besthotelrates.com.
Texting enrolls you in recurring automated
Okay, I'm here.
message data rates may apply.
Hi, I'm Frank
Alright,
Thomas, the Big Hurt. After I left baseball, I just couldn't stay in shape like I used to. Turns out, once you hit 40, your body has less free testosterone, and that can make it harder to get into shape. So I got back into the game with Nugenics. I'm feeling stronger with a lot more energy and drive.
Frank's right.
You want to get back into shape? Get Nugenics. All you have to do is send one simple text.
Frank's right. Just text MAINE to 321321 to get a complimentary bottle of award-winning Nugenics, the #1 selling free testosterone booster at GNC. Its unique man-boosting formula is powered by Testofen, a patented key ingredient clinically researched to help a man feel stronger, leaner, more energetic, and more passionate.
And guys,
Hey, Tom.
Yeah, I'm here.
the difference.
Hey, can you send me Lombardo's number?
Oh, yeah. I didn't see that.
Bottle, text MAINE to
Uh,
321321. That's MAIN to 321321.
Here at Rocket Mortgage and the Rock family of companies, every one of our team members knows a hero.
My Uncle Paul, who works long hours at the grocery store to make sure that people can put food on the table.
We really want to thank my wife's cousin Marie, who works so hard as a nurse saving others.
Thank you for being a hero in our community, Des Marie.
To those who leave their homes,
Sorry, I just sent
days
it.
and hours, we thank you. From the front lines to behind the scenes, we see you. You're essential every day, and today, you're heroes.
You're giving families everywhere a little more hope for a healthier tomorrow.
We're sending all our love, gratitude, and hope your way.
Here's to all of you. We couldn't be more grateful.
Thank you so much for everything that you're doing.
Yeah, you guys are awesome.
Did we miss you, Mama? I just want to say thank you.
Thank you. If you'd like to thank America's frontline and essential workers with us, visit everyoneknowsahero.com. Quicken Loans LLC, NMLS number 3030.
All right, he's on point.
Thanks, buddy.
That identifies themselves as part of the Rock family of companies are separate legal entities with their own governance and management structures.
Whenever you give me a chance, send me John.
Johnny, yep. I'll send that to you now or in the break.
This is SB Nation Radio,
And SBNationRadio.com.
presented by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans, live from the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios. Here's a ender.
Well, coming into the draft, clearly no fan, I don't want to say base, but no fan of any other team saw their general manager more ridiculed than Dave Gettleman and the New York Giants, right down to my show during the week, where coming into it, we even had a Wednesday, actually, was pretty much dedicated to which general manager / front office member will be the first to go through some sort of technical difficulty, share the wrong screen, completely mess up, not be there and miss the pick, all of the stuff that was attributed. 5 out of every 6 people who voted or tweeted or called or wherever said Dave Gettleman. Well, how did the Giants do? Also, some NFL discussion that we need to chat about with our next guest. Joining us on the Progressive Guest line is Matt Lombardo at Matt Lombardo NFL, covers the Giants and National Football League for NJ.com. My friend, I know it's been crazy busy. Giants had you right down to the end, huh? They couldn't trade up or anything. They made you wait right until the end of that draft.
They've had 8 drafts, and Dave Gettleman has never traded back in the first 3 rounds. And, of course, they're not going to trade out of Mr. Irrelevant. So, as my colleagues who cover the Jets and the Eagles are out having, post-draft beers, and they're in the Slack channels, screenshotting shots of their whiskey shots and all of that on their back porches, I'm sitting there grinding it out, writing scouting reports and hot takes on Mr. Irrelevant out of Georgia.
All right, what's the biggest thing that the world should know about Mr. Irrelevant before it becomes some mention on like Good Morning Football or any other football show tomorrow?
Well, most of the scouting agencies did not even grade Mr. Irrelevant, so he truly
Does he have a name? Do we even know who he is?
Yeah, so the Giants pick with number 255 overall was the linebacker out of Georgia. Plays a little bit of inside linebacker, mostly outside, undersized, and certainly somebody who's going to need to fight to even make this roster, which makes sticking around until 7:30 even all the more annoying about this. It was Tay Crowder, the Georgia linebacker, Tay Crowder, chosen as Mr. Irrelevant.
Tay Crowder of the Giants. Now, you look back at the list of guys. I mean, I don't know if he's a Tim Toon that the Lions drafted in 2010 or if he could hold a candle to David Vobora, who the Rams drafted.
Before a great poll.
Well, I'm looking at the list. I'm not pulling this from memory. Maybe Ryan Suckup could be one of the more famous Mr. Irrelevants. He was drafted by the Chiefs in 2009. Gerald Christian, Chad Kelly, Broncos quarterback in 2017. Caleb Wilson, we know last year for the Cardinals. Are you expecting anything at all? Let's start there. Let's start in reverse. Why the heck not? Are you expecting this guy to even make the team?
Well, he was the 4th of 4 linebackers chosen in round 5 and over tonight 8 times. So I don't love Crowder's chances of making this team. I think that when you look at some of the other linebackers that came off the board, Penn State's Cam Brown taken in round 6, a lot of familiarity there with their new defensive line coach, Sean Spencer, who coached the Penn State defensive line up until he was hired this spring. And then you had Chad Coughlin out of Minnesota, who's just a dominant pass rushing outside linebacker. The team started to really alter their game plans against to defend him, to protect their quarterback. They had to key in on him a little bit more. So I think with Coughlin and Brown in the mix, I think it's going to be a struggle for Crowder to make this squad.
All right, let's look at now the opposite end. You go offensive lineman. Giants did not trade out. Was that by design, both the pick and not trading out, or is that due to circumstance?
Yeah, Eitan, I reported last week that the Giants were trying frantically to move out of the number 4 spot, but the general manager and the executives and scouts that I spoke to around the league insisted to me that there was just no market. And that's where the red herring of the Giants doing homework on Justin Herbert came about, because they were trying to do anything to get any sort of value, a second-round pick, an early third-round pick, back in return to move back a couple of spots. But Andrew Thomas, the offensive tackle out of Georgia, was the number 1 offensive tackle on their board. And from my conversations with people around the league, they weren't alone in that regard. And a lot of people in the media and a lot of analysts had Thomas probably as offensive tackle 3 or 4 out of this group. But I can tell you, Eitan, that from talking to people who I trust league-wide, he was one of those players that the rest of the league was a lot higher on than fans in the media were. And in my opinion, the Giants got significantly better along the offensive line by adding Thomas. And he's the most productive pass protector in this class. He's a dominant run blocker. He did it in the SEC against some of the elite pass rushers in college football the last 3 years. And the Giants are really excited to have him there. And I think it's going to be pay incredible dividends immediately for the development of Daniel Jones.
But there wasn't, even as you said it, some people had him 4 of 4 as far as that top tier. There wasn't any, and I don't mean like the idiots who are just waiting to respond and hate, but there wasn't second guessing at the very least of, hey, you address the right position, but maybe not the right body.
Again, I think, Eitan, the perception outside of the league was that Thomas was
outside of the league.
3 or 4.
Got it. I missed that
people
outside part. I apologize.
Right, yeah. Yeah, no, you're fine. The scouts and executives who I talked to, I know of 7 teams that had him as the number 1 tackle on their board and 2 teams that had him as the number 1 player on their board overall. Once you got past Joe Burrow and Chase Young, of course, because they knew they had no realistic shot of drafting them. But Thomas was a popular pick inside the league, and the people I talked to think that the Giants hit a home run by staying there and taking him over someone like Isaiah Simmons or Derek Brown.
What was a pick or maybe 2 that was made by the Giants? And I'm not trying to bait you into us opening up a door to bash Gettleman. I'm just curious, what was the pick that jumped out as the biggest head scratcher?
I thought it was Matt Pert, the offensive tackle out of UConn.
Oh, UConn, yeah.
I think the Giants certainly have needs at offensive tackle. They filled a big hole, obviously, in Andrew Thomas, who's going to be the franchise left tackle for years to come. But when you have a glaring need at center with only Spencer Pulley and a former undrafted free agent in Nick Gates as your 2 centers currently on the roster, I thought it would have been a better use of draft capital to go center there, or even go and get an edge rusher like James Lynch out of Baylor, who was available at the end of round 3. That probably would have filled an immediate need, probably brought a little bit more value than Pert. And listen, if he pans out and in 2 years he's the starting right tackle of the future, then God bless the Giants. They found great value there. But I just think that at least in the immediate future, he's a developmental prospect, and this is a roster that needed help in too many other areas where you could take a chance on developing a tackle who might or might not start for you 2 years down the road.
Matt Lombardo joining us at Matt Lombardo NFL on Twitter. Let's look at something right here in your own backyard, and it's beyond. This is no longer an Eagles story. This is an NFL story. It's still up there as one of the top stories on ESPN.com's homepage. What's your, let me get 2 from you. Let me get your initial, oh my goodness, they just drafted Jalen Hurts reaction to if it's changed. And you know what, to be fair, Lombo, it might have gotten even worse like it has for me, to where you sit right now, 20 minutes after the hour, contemplating and thinking and reflecting about the Hurts pick.
Yeah, Eitan, I think the initial pick was, my initial reaction to the pick was that Howie Roseman and the Eagles just don't trust Carson Wentz to stay healthy. Now, obviously with that contract, he's not going to be a player that you can trade anytime in the near future. There's not going to be a market for Carson Wentz. But when you look at the injury history, you look at the value and the need to have franchise quarterbacks, having Hurts, I think, is an insurance policy. But when you sit down and you really sit with this pick and you let it ruminate a little bit, the Eagles were in desperate need of a young, viable, legitimate backup quarterback because of Wentz's injury history. And I think that when you add Jalen Hurts, who was probably the 4th ranked quarterback in this class, certainly a really good thrower, a guy who's mobile, I think that was the type of pick that had it come in round 3, which he wasn't going to be available in round 3, but had it come in round 3, I think the fan base would have reacted a lot differently and a lot more positive to it. And overall, at the time, I think the Eagles, when you look at what they were able to do today, trading for Marcus Goodwin, adding some speed at receiver, adding some depth to the back end of the secondary, I actually had, when I was putting together my list of winners and losers league-wide, it's going to drop tomorrow on NJ.com, I initially had the Eagles as one of the biggest losers in the draft. But I think that today's moves, today's picks, and today's trades really helped the Eagles kind of salvage this week.
Okay, here's where it's not that I disagree, but I separate what happened with Jalen Hurts and Howie Roseman doing his job, which is addressing positions of need. And the biggest problem isn't going to be in 2 or 3 years, are we going to look back and think, is Jalen Hurts a success like anybody who was taken, even Jalen Reagor in the first round? The problem is going to spill over into impacting Carson Wentz, into impacting this offense, into forcing something to maybe work just to justify taking that player so high. And we already saw, you were here and you saw what happened with Carson Wentz and how the whole thing with Nick Foles impacted his psyche, his attention, and everything that even play on the field. That's the deeper impact that I'm frustrated that the Eagles reopened. And we're not talking about Drew Brees, Lambo, whose arm has fallen off. Wentz be 28 this year.
No, I agree, but I'll play a little bit of devil's advocate here. That when Andrew Luck suddenly retired last August, if you talk to people around the league, whether it was insiders, like people in front offices and scouts, or just people who do what you and I do for a living, the first name that came to people.
Well, hold on a second. Hold on.
Suddenly retire.
What you do is you're a journalist. You break news. I flap my gums on here. Let's not compare the two. You work. I don't. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I wanted to clarify that for people out there.
Well, the people who do what I do for a living, the people who cover the league, the first name, Eitan, and you do much more than slap your gums on the radio. You're quite good at what you do. Don't disparage yourself there. But the people who I spoke to, the first name that came to mind of who could be the next quarterback to potentially retire young and out of nowhere was Carson Wentz. And that was before the debilitating concussion in the NFC divisional round game, the wildcard game, rather, that they lost to the Seattle Seahawks. That when you look at needing a bona fide young quarterback, the quarterback position has never been more valuable. And if Carson Wentz goes on to play 16 games at a high level, leads the Eagles on a playoff run, perhaps in a year, the Eagles can trade Jalen Hurts for a second or a third round pick to continue to build around Wentz. But
okay.
If he gets hurt again, if he tears his ACL, if he gets concussed again, if he walks away, the Eagles are going to feel a lot better about having Hurts on the roster.
I get from the individual concern of Carson Wentz that he could retire. He could be the next guy to retire. We're also talking, though, about a guy that got paid a ton of money. So if what you or anybody is trying to convince me to feel better about this whole situation is telling me that they drafted Jalen Hurts that high because they're concerned Carson Wentz is going to retire, well, hell, that opens up a huge issue that maybe you can then start justifying, okay, that's the case. But Taysom Hill and the other things that are being thrown at me, I can't really digest. And then here's the other thing. You're right. And thankfully, you didn't say it like Adam Schefter did, which is, well, Carson Wentz could catch COVID-19. You're right that the quarterback position is highly valued and people look at the backup. But even still, it's not like the Lions drafted Justin Herbert at 3, knowing that Matthew Stafford's not going to be around forever. It's not like this whole thing has been consistent in the NFL. It seems like it's just individual to Carson Wentz.
I don't disagree, but I also think that the Eagles on the surface are a lot closer to competing for a Super Bowl than the Detroit Lions are. And that if and when Wentz would get hurt again, I think that Howie Roseman looked at what happened in 2017 when Nick Foles stepped in and led them to a Super Bowl and thought that he needed to have that kind of a player behind Wentz, just given how banged up he's been in recent years. And listen, I don't disagree that the Eagles would have been a lot wiser to pick up one of the offensive tackles in round 2 or to get the best available wide receiver to pair with Reagor to really, build out the weapons around Wentz and put him in a position to, succeed this year. But the Packers did the same thing, drafting Jordan Love. Obviously, Rodgers is a lot older than Carson Wentz, but I think there are legitimate injury concerns and that this roster is, on the cusp of making a deep run into the NFC But if you take Carson Wentz out of that equation, it looks a lot different in terms of 2020 and beyond for this team.
I'm disappointed that you don't hate this trade or pick as much as I do. I have to be honest.
Well, like you said, you're paid to flap your gums on the
No, but I genuinely believe this. Like, I feel like I've been calm ever since that other station got rid of me, and now this is the first, like, my blood's boiling. All right, let me end on this because I'm already late, but I appreciate the time and everything. First, there's no wrong answer, okay? First movie that comes to mind when you think of Al Pacino.
Al Pacino, Raging Bull.
Okay, I didn't think you were going to go that way. Why?
It's the first one that popped in my head.
I understand that, but why do you think it was the first one? Do you love that movie more than anything? Did he make you cry? I don't know. Did you make out with your first girl with that in the background? Something.
I saw it for the first time last week.
Get out of here. Go back and defend that Hurts pick more. Find somebody who agrees with you. Get out of here. I love you, man. Thank you, brother. All right. That's Matt Lombardo at Matt Lombardo NFL on Twitter. Frog is wrong. All right. Unbelievable. John Marks is going to join. I already see him popped up here on the stream. We might need to add him on the stream in the break and get a little preview if you're watching twitch.tv/Shander Show of what to expect 13 minutes from now, as hopefully he is just a little more upset about that pick than Matt Lombardo was. It's SB Nation Radio.
Wake up call.
All right, 1 sec. All right, I'm going to try and.
I just checked it, and it looks like they left something connected to the brick. Let me disconnect real quick.
Okay.
Is it Dr. Fossey?
What up? What up? Can you hear me, John?
Yo.
Look at that.
Why is your
So am I talking through the phone, or I'll be talking through the...
So how I have it set up is, and I'm going to pull you down 1 second here, but you're going to be talking through the Comrex, but you're going to be seen through the webcam.
Right,
but everybody.
Will you mute? Will you be muted?
Family to a restaurant.
What do you mean?
There's 4 of you.
Like on the
Just
phone.
get 4 tables.
It does no, because nobody on the stream will hear you on the phone. On the stream, they're going to hear you through the camera.
Right, I know. I'm just talking about feedback from what if I can hear you
No.
with my speaker.
Wake up call.
No, well, your speaker, I think, should be muted.
I was.
Or no,
trying to.
it's going through your headphones, isn't it?
No, I'm not
John, I'm
connected to
sorry.
anything yet.
Is there a password?
To connect to the brick?
Yes.
I don't know.
Okay, hold
I've
on.
never been involved with the setup process. I can text Ron real quick and see.
Yes. Do you mind?
Big time on it. No, I don't mind.
Pharrell Coast to Coast with Scott Pharrell. Weekdays from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah, okay. John, you want it? Here we go. I think I have it.
The password?
Yeah, I'm going to text it to you.
Said
All right.
this about the soft.
What is it?
Well, I don't want to say it over the.
No, I know, but
I'm going to text it. Yeah, I'm going to text it to you too.
Really, he's typing up the Will Fuller 20.
All right. So, if you want, is the brick clear now, John? All right. So why don't you try to connect to that, and you'll hear.
What am I supposed to be connecting to?
Groin working fine. With the 2020 Will Fuller, you're going to have big games 1 out of every 5 times. The other 4 times, he'll disappear.
You hear me?
What's that?
It might.
I said, what am I supposed to be connecting to?
No, he's connecting to you, the brick.
2020 Will Fuller. You can buy him for $29.99. Will Fuller injury is not guaranteed.
I think it's because you're talking to 2 Johns. Every time you say John.
I got you.
Yeah, and I can hear Mark's now.
SB Nation Radio.
Nobody's connected yet.
MotiveMap.com.
I got ya.
A brand new
Now my
website
sound.
for anyone interested in what's happening in the world of.
Can you hear him?
From reviews
John
of
Belmer, can you hear him?
vehicles to vintage rides to tips on keeping your.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Only problem is I can't mute you on my phone.
If you love cars, trucks, and SUVs, and the
What do you mean your phone? How are you connected? You shouldn't be on the phone. You should be on the Comrex. Turn the phone off.
But you want the video, right?
Oh, you're doing it on your phone, not a webcam.
No, I don't webcam. The phone.
Well, do you want to come on now and hang out for the next segment too? Or this is only a 5, or do you want to wait? It's up to you.
This
You're-
is
I don't care.
SB
No, I
Nation
can come on.
Radio.
All right.
SB Nation Radio.
Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Live from the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios.
All right, so this is history here. We're doing this for the first time, and we tried it out, and yeah, there it is. There was that feedback you were worried about, Johnny.
Yeah.
No, that's good, though. Jeez. All right, so that's John Marks. He's joining us in Philadelphia, not too far from where I am sitting, and he hosts the Afternoon Drive Show alongside former Eagle Ike Reese, crowd favorite, of course, on 94 WIP. And I'm sure that Monday is going to be historic in the sense of reaction and topic and the specifics of it. But as I mentioned, the history here is not all of the crazy calls that John is going to have to sift and field on Monday. It's you're joining us on the stream, twitch.tv/Sanders Show. In fact, I need to make sure that people are aware on Twitter that you're doing this because you've got a ton of followers. You are not only visual, but you're also audio.
Correct.
Now look at
What's
that.
up, Eitan?
What's going on, man?
You know, the Eagles are making my job pretty easy come Monday, like you said. If you could have said to me of all the scenarios of what the Eagles would do in the second round, right? This would have been the last out of a million, right? That they're going to select Jalen Hurts. I was just listening to the end of Matt Lombardo right there. And I respect Matt. He's a good football man.
We love Lombo.
I mean, listen. Normally when everybody's on one side of the ledger, and then there's got to be another side to it, right? Like everybody can't be right about this. Everybody is right about this. This is a ridiculous pick. I don't know if they're outsmarting themselves. I don't know if they had too much time to think about stuff. I know their passing game coordinator, who last year was the quarterback's coach, he talked about last June or last July during training camp how one of the new things in the NFL was to have two passers on the field at the same time. I don't know if they're trying to redesign the sport. Here's what I know: fads come and fads go. I don't buy for a second that drafting Jalen Hurts in the second round as your backup quarterback is the best move to make, especially for a team that's trying to build to win another Super Bowl. I mean, it's ridiculous. And I can't wait to get on the air on Monday because I'm walking around my neighborhood today, Eitan, dragging my kid on her bike and training wheels, and I have people coming out of their house yelling and screaming at me, walking by. Welcome to Philadelphia.
Well, what are they really upset about? Like they want you to change it, or they want you to demand that Howie gets fired? They're yelling at you, right?
Well, they know. I wouldn't be down with it. I think they just wanted to yell at somebody. I literally woke up this morning and I had to kind of sit up. And my kids were up early. I kind of sat up and said, and thought for a second that didn't happen.
They ruined the draft for me.
Literally went to my phone. Yeah,
I didn't even watch the kid who got drafted in the third round, John.
No, I was out. I was out of the draft. I was out of the draft after that, and then I was just on Twitter, typing stuff furiously angry. Jalen Hurts has a chance in the NFL, right? I mean, Jalen Hurts is a great athlete. He's a great athlete. I like him. I don't like him as my second round pick at number 53. You were glaring holes all up and down your roster. I mean, wide receiver, depth on the offensive line, cornerback, safety, linebacker, defensive end. You name it, this team needs it. And to use a pick on a quarterback, that worst case scenario, like pretty much this is what you're now rooting for, Eitan, is that he never plays, right? Because if he plays, it means that your quarterback is injured. So what are you doing? Rooting for him to be injured so he plays, or rooting for him to not be injured so he doesn't play? Either way, it's terrible. It's a terrible idea. What, for a couple of gadget plays and trick plays, you're going to use them like Taysom Hill? Guess what? Taysom Hill's not worth a second-round draft pick at all. He's not. And then here's the other thing, right? So what's going to happen in 4 years? What's going to happen in 4 years? You're going to
we have another segment, right?
No, yeah.
Okay. No, this is great. I'm just reminding you that we're about to break, and you're going to hear music. Now,
I'm just getting warmed up.
I love it. Now, real quick, maybe we could just do this coming into the break. You're John Marks. John Belmer is our producer back in Houston. Is there any way we can listen to the Schefter cut at the very least going into the break. I'm not sure if Johnny Marks heard this, but if he hasn't, he needs to. All right, here we go.
Let's hear it.
What if Wentz gets the virus next? I mean, no, you're good. You're good. You're good. No, that's fine. See, now we're live, John. So on this, we're off the air, but we're live on the stream. So people.
Yeah, I watch.
All right, cool.
I watch.
We fixed the echo, so you're good.
So we're good.
All right, perfect.
Awesome.
Yeah, this is great, man. I love that we can get you on from the closet.
Yeah. Is this your Comrex?
Yeah. So,
I was looking into one of my own when they eventually asked for this one back.
well, what are you using?
It's a Comrex. I don't know much more than
Do you
that.
know the model of it?
I mean, no. I know that someone from the company, from the Comrex company, somehow saw a picture of me in the closet and DM'd me on Twitter and was like, "Hey, can we use that for promotional purposes?"
Are you getting paid?
And I'm like, "No."
Yeah.
Like you gotta email my
Right?
boss.
Or at least give you something, give you a hookup.
Yeah, give me.
Is it a portable box or is it stationary?
Yeah. It's
The problem is your phone. That's the issue. You got shitty connection.
Yeah. Let me hold on.
That's all right. We can see it.
No.
Oh, so you're on 3G or 5G? What do you have now?
What I have been doing. Yeah. Well, I'm on whatever my. This is on a dedicated hardline. The Comrex is. But I have it coming from all the way downstairs. But my phone is just, on whatever wireless.
Wait, your phone's on the wireless now. Yeah, but how are you connected on
My
the
phone's just
Comrex?
running on data.
You're using the hard line on the Comrex, right?
Yeah.
All right. So I can zoom out if you want. But no, it's better since you're on the phone. It's better to zoom in.
Yeah.
We could bring somebody else on. Who should we bring on? Yeah, did you see Trey's tweet, by the way?
Trey Thomas?
Yeah.
I did not.
Somebody was like, "Oh, Trey, I need your thoughts on this, on Jalen Reagor. Call in tomorrow, please. Just use a fake name." And Trey responds like, "I want to make sure I got this right. You want me to call a company or station that fired me 2 days before April Fool's Day in the middle of a pandemic?" It was awesome.
He called in us on Friday.
Is that right?
Yeah. No, Thursday.
Unbelievable, man. Oh, man. John Marks joins us at JON Marks Media is how you follow him on Twitter. Again, Afternoon Drive, 3 to 6, right?
2 to 6.
2 to 6. Jeez. All right.
Come on, man. I don't get these cushy 3-hour shifts.
No, I know. Local radio.
Grinding, brother.
You do. Well, to be fair, you have a co-host, so it's you and Ike Reese, and you hold down. I heard you guys are number 1, aren't you?
Yes.
Well, congratulations.
Last book we were number 1.
Look at that.
It was another good couple of months.
Look at that. See, John Belmer hitting you with a little celebration. And not only that, you get to celebrate in the class. You were the only person I know who, during the pandemic, where we're all forced to work at home, which is not a bad thing, thank God we're all working, but you have everybody has created this office, this studio, I already had all this crap trinket stuff around me, but everybody's created these at-home studios, these offices. Everybody's gone Cliff Kingsbury, and you went Dan Quinn, which is just desk. Didn't he look lonely? Didn't you feel bad for him every shot you had? You're in your closet, and this has turned into like this huge thing, broadcasting from the closet, Mark's closet. You've turned this into like a cult classic following thing, man.
Well, here's the thing. It's a great walk-in closet. It's nice size. So it's actually, in terms of a home studio, I have a finished basement, but it's, it's to do a show down there for 4 hours, the sound wouldn't be great. The sound here is actually, because of the clothes and it's kind of tight and carpeted underneath. So it actually is the best sounding place I could be in the house. Now, part of the only problem is that I don't get great Wi-Fi reception up here. So my phone tends to go in and out. So I'm constantly going from the Wi-Fi using cellular data. So I'm switching on and off. I'm losing the call screener, which is on my laptop during a show. But I'm making it work, Eitan. What are you going to do? I'm lucky.
I love it, man.
We're working. We're not out of work. There's so many people out there that have lost their job or have been furloughed or are unable to work because they worked in restaurants or they're bartenders and things like that. So we are fortunate to be able to talk to the people during a time like this. And I appreciate it and I really embrace it.
Awesome. And you're right. It's definitely a nice distraction. And on that same vein, I think this has to factor in, but it can't be the excuse, which is we really couldn't afford to have bad news. Like to be fair, no fan base could. This was the distraction this weekend. We couldn't afford to go through and have bad news and hate our draft because we're stuck in a pandemic. As you mentioned, there are far worse things going on. When your distraction turns into something that is bad and negative, then where do you go? So how much of that do you think compounds people's frustrations with not only, and let's expand this, not only the Eagles taking Jalen Hurts in the second round, but the Packers taking Jordan Love in the first? Like, how much do you think everybody's just so on edge as it is, do you think exasperates this whole reaction in both fan bases?
Sure. I mean, at this point, if it was just and in Philadelphia, you never really stop talking about the Eagles and you never really, you move on to some of the other sports, but really that's always kind of at the forefront of everybody's mind. But then you have that pocket before training camp in, end May, June, and then once July hits, it's all Eagles all the time. But you're right, and you can't even turn to say, you know what, bleep the Eagles. I'm gonna watch the Phillies. I'm gonna watch the Flyers playoff run. I'm gonna watch the 76ers and see if they can make some noise in the playoffs. Now we're gonna sit here and bitch and complain. I already know it. I already know what we're gonna do. Now that the general manager of the Eagles is gonna be a fool, which he looks like right now, and the explanation of, well, Nick Foles, when we brought Nick Foles in here, Nick Foles has absolutely no comparison to drafting a quarterback in the second round. See, that's the thing.
Oh, my goodness.
Is that if it would have been even explained a little bit better, it would have been like, it still would have made sense, but at least it would have been like, okay, well, I see where they're coming from. They outsmarted themselves here. I mean, they really did. So for all the people that don't know the Eagles' history in the second round, right? Like, all teams have hits and misses in whatever round, first round, but in particular in the second round, the Eagles have drafted Hall of Fame players in the second round. Brian Dawkins was a second round draft pick. Zach Ertz, who's not a Hall of Famer yet, if he continues on the path, he's going to come close. LaShawn McCoy was a second round draft pick. Deshaun Jackson was a second round draft pick. Miles Sanders, the rookie last year, was a second round draft pick. Charlie Gardner was a second round draft pick. Bobby Taylor, who was a Pro Bowl type cornerback back in the 90s and early 2000s, he was a second round draft pick. So to draft a backup quarterback / gadget player is, it defies logic. At least with the Packers, you can say Aaron Rodgers is in his late 30s. We'll get a guy, we'll groom him, and you know what? If he's not in there by year 3, it means Aaron Rodgers is still playing at a very high level. This is ridiculous that they would use that on a rookie. Go get a backup. Go pay money and get a backup. That's it.
Yeah,
that's what you do. You don't use a second round draft pick.
No, and there has to be some sort of middle ground between we're concerned about Carson Wentz's health and we need Jalen Hurts to be the new backup over Nate Sudfeld. Like there has to be some sort of middle ground. And I think Matt Lombardo brought this up in kind of the beginning. I don't know if you caught this in the interview when we were going back and forth, John, but Lombo brought up how he was told, and other people as well, that after Luck, Carson Wentz was going to be the next quarterback to retire early, that there's general belief around the NFL that Wentz is going to be the next guy like Luck to say, that's it, I'm out. And first off, I don't necessarily know how you can quantify that outside of Wentz himself telling somebody, hey, man, I don't think I can last. And on top of that, that's a way bigger problem that at some point needs to be communicated to the public in some way, that you don't look like a fool continuing to try to tell us you're going to jam Taysom Hill 2.0 down our throats.
I think that's the biggest crock of crap that I've heard since Adam Schefter said, oh, well, they drafted him because of
Oh, yeah, we forgot to get your reaction to that coming out of the break.
I think what Lombo said is actually more crap than what Schefter said, and that's pretty tough. He just signed he's entering a 4-year, $100 million contract. I don't believe for a second that Carson Wentz has even thought about, oh, well, man, the injuries are just too bad. What are we talking about here? Well, he played 16 games last year. He was injured in a freak dirty play in the playoffs. His rookie year, he didn't miss a game. Last year, he didn't miss a game. I know that there were injury issues in the 2 years between that. We understand that. I'm not saying that he's going to stay healthy for the rest of his career, but he's not taking bad injuries. He tore his ACL on a play where I would have seen him get a concussion or a separated shoulder before a torn ACL, right?
Yeah.
The guy's had injuries. He's big. He takes punishment. He's going to learn to play the game better as he gets older to keep himself safer. He already did that last year. To say that they're drafting Jalen Hurts because they're worried about Carson Wentz retiring a la Andrew Luck is preposterous.
All right.
I don't even know where that comes from. He just signed a contract.
Yeah, it doesn't make much sense. And, now you've got 3 straight, right? And you mentioned Miles Sanders, but you've got Sidney Jones, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, and now Jalen Hurts, where you're just completely going off any type of history you've built being successful in that second round. It's hard for me. Here's what I did, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. It's not a question, it's just more a statement, and I'm just curious how you look at it. But I think what I did, and hopefully what I did, was successfully separate my frustration with the deeper impact, which you laid out a lot, of why Jalen Hurts on this team, drafted at the position he did, creates more problems for Wentz and the offense and things like that moving forward, versus how he did a good job today addressing needs that he needed to address coming into the draft. Like, that doesn't make up for the fact, John, that Carson Wentz is going to have an arm and an eye and a leg and everything over his shoulder now, back to what happened with Foles.
Yeah, and let's not be naive here. And I think the general manager of the Philadelphia Eagles, Howie Roseman, is being extremely naive if he doesn't believe that if Carson Wentz goes down and misses a game or 2 or 3, God forbid it happens during a part of the season where maybe the offense is struggling and Hurts comes in and has some success, you've built a quarterback controversy. Whether or not the team is behind Carson Wentz 100%, which I believe that they are, it doesn't mean that every player on that team isn't going to get questioned. It doesn't mean that some players on the team, like an Alshon Jeffrey, maybe wouldn't side with, you know what? This Jalen Hurts is a pretty good player. Maybe he is better than Carson Wentz, right? You just built a quarterback controversy if something happens. That's what you have. One of the reasons why Nick Foles, and really the biggest reason is money, but another reason why Nick Foles wasn't back with the Eagles after winning a Super Bowl or after that next year was that you have a quarterback controversy that is built in. You need to move on. You need to realize that this is Carson Wentz's team, and that's it. And you bring in a backup quarterback, or you develop a young backup quarterback. You don't do that in the second round. You don't draft a developmental quarterback in the second round. And one more thing on this. When you look at LaShawn McCoy's and Deshaun Jackson's and Miles Sanders and those guys, right? Like, if they don't make their second contract, if they don't get an extension, that second round draft pick will be an extreme blunder. It would be a failure if they don't see a second contract. We
Great
agree on
point.
that,
Yes.
right? Okay, so if Jalen Hurts gets a second contract from the Eagles, what does that tell you? That Carson Wentz failed.
Exactly right. There are two extremes here. Either Carson Wentz is going to fail by circumstance or because Hurts just takes over, or Hurts is going to be a blunder and people are going to keep going back to why in the world did you draft him so high? None of this makes sense. Now, is there any truth to the rumor? And right now, it is still a rumor. It's unsubstantiated. I saw it on Twitch. 9/11 Sixers. John was more frustrated than when you hung up, Marks, on Bob Costas. What was more frustrating for you? The Bob Costas interview where you and Sean, right, had to bang on him, or watching the Eagles draft Jalen Hurts? Like, you actually had to hang up on Bob Costas. You know how rare that is?
I hung up on him, and he deserves it because he's being a total.
That's
beast.
radio history in Philadelphia, man.
Oh my God, Bob Costas. I'll go back to one. The only thing that's more ridiculous than this with I'll just say with the Eagles, because I can't go back with the other teams right now, is when Andy Reid made the offensive line coach Juan Castillo their defensive coordinator. Had no experience as a defensive coordinator in the NFL. He was a linebackers coach in the USFL for a year or two, but then was an offensive line coach, tight ends coach for a year or two. And then he was an offensive line coach for a long time, a great offensive line coach too, but he wanted to be a defensive coordinator. So Andy Reid reasoned that because he's an offensive line coach and he meets with the defensive coaches all the time, blah, 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 he'd make a fine defensive coordinator. Didn't move him over to the other side of the ball as defensive line coach or linebackers coach or assistant. No, he became the defensive coordinator. This is more ridiculous than that because at least you could see he's a football coach that maybe he could make the move over the defense. For all those reasons, drafting Jalen Hurts as your backup quarterback / gadget player in the second round is the dumbest thing this franchise has ever done.
Unbelievable. It is awful. Hey, do me a favor. Can you hang for one more second? It's going to be like a 2.5-minute segment. And I want to get your thoughts. It's Al Pacino's 80th. What's the first movie that comes to mind? No wrong answer here. Just give us the first movie that comes to mind in the brain. Lambo went Raging Bull.
I heard.
Come on. What's wrong with him? You've known him as long as I have. What's wrong with him?
You didn't have a good answer.
I think that's what it is. Now, what's your answer?
See, I would just go Heat because everybody talks about how good Heat is, and I think it would be a lot better if it was about 40 to 50 minutes shorter. I think the runtime's 2 hours and 39 minutes. But Al Pacino plays Al Pacino in that movie.
Okay, I want you to hold that thought, all right? Because we're going to end the show on that. And also, Patrick Creighton comes your way at the top of the hour across all network platforms. Giants fan that just got a ton of ammunition as Marks here in Philadelphia continues to lay in, rightfully so, our Philadelphia Eagles with the blunder of the draft. Yes, I know the Packers drafted Love, but the Eagles still hold that belt. It's SB Nation Radio. Yeah, go ahead. We got about 3 minutes. Nice. So it's working good, John Feller. All right. Nice. Yeah. I think when I record, I don't know why I have the mixer connected to the computer. Yeah, because I don't know why when I have the computer coming back to the mix board, it's feeding. See, I don't know how John is feeding to us via the stream, but you could hear him on the stream.
Yeah, I mean, I could mute the mic.
No, I think I need you to do whatever you're doing.
All right. I mean, as long as it finds okay.
Do you hear a feedback or echo? No, Marks.
I can hear when you talk. I can hear you through my headphones, and I know it's coming from the phone. But when I talk, there's
Yeah, because you're the only one that's hearing anything double. Because even on Twitch, nobody's hearing anything.
Okay.
Yeah. No, this is perfect because you can now. If you were doing it on your phone, and you were a phone guest, you would need to have the phone connected via a headset.
Right. Right. Yeah. No, I know. It makes sense.
Right?
Yeah, for the video thing, or just I could talk on the landline and then have that there.
I'm just thinking of somebody who doesn't have a Comrex.
Right.
How was the party? Socially distancing? It's not bad. Oh, I forgot to bring this up. I'll do this real quick with you. This has been nuts, man. You doing all right, though, otherwise? Where'd you go?
He sat in the driveway.
Jeffrey, that doesn't make sense because nobody else is hearing it twice. And I unplugged the thing that was doing the echo. So one thing I want to get thoughts from John Marks is, before we get out of here, hand things over to Patrick Creighton at the top of the hour across all SB Nation radio platforms. Are you familiar with one of the very important factoids that ESPN wanted you to know about Laviska Shenault Jr., John? Hometown, DeSoto, Texas. Hobbies include video games and Sudoku. Spent time volunteering in high school to honor local veterans. That's where it should stop. That's it. Like, that's the end. That's where you move on to the next pick. But ESPN wanted you to know mother Annie contracted and survived West Nile virus in 2012. John, I wish I made that up. I wish this is one of these onion things. This is how crazy this whole thing has got.
Yeah, West Nile. I mean,
Do you need to know this about draft picks?
No, I mean, with COVID-19, I guess they want people to know, like, hey, West Nile virus. I mean,
well, there was a story about a guy's dad who slipped on gravel and was hit by a truck. Do you need to know this? No, especially during we're in the middle of a pandemic. We need positive news, and ESPN turned this thing into like a Shakespearean tragedy.
As they like to Tom.
Oh my goodness, there were some bad ones out there. I think the dad getting hit by the truck might have been the worst. 2 to 6 tomorrow, right? Oh, I keep thinking today's Sunday.
Today is definitely Saturday. 2 to 6 on Monday.
94 WIP.
And Howie Roseman's actually going to be on
What
our
time?
show this week. I don't know if it's Monday or whatever, but he was Eagles GM.
Look, this is a national story. I suggest you all turn into 94 WIP starting at 2 o'clock on Monday. You're going to hear the best analysis right there. Awesome, brother. Thanks, Johnny. Oh, man, I appreciate you. Have a great night. John Belmer, thank you, man. Thanks for making that happen. You got it, brother. Oh, no worries.